Hello.
Well, I'm ready for a good.
Can you hear us, Tom?
I do.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, we're trying out a new system since we don't have full setup.
Ah, there's the beautiful owl in the middle of the room.
Yeah, we got a new camera.
Okay. Well, hello from Thursday.
Well, hello there.
Very close group.
Yeah, we're doing this camera, but we're using the Alpha speaker.
It's
So,
intimate, the intimate
yeah,
setting.
close.
Yeah.
Touching knees here.
It's the, get a little closer.
I guess. I know, I was like, should I get one more? One more table? These are
Did you get enough, info that we're going for?
Yes,
Yes.
yep, everyone's gonna be here in person. Besides Tom. Yep, and he's online already.
Hey, Tom, how's Vietnam, buddy? Hear us? You might have decided to step away.
Our speaker's doing something. Did you hear it? It got quieter.
You test talk really quick.
Hello?
And could you give me a test?
Test, test. Can you hear me? Anybody online? Test. 2, 3. I see the microphone levels going up on the screen. Test, test, test. Test.
This is not voluming properly.
Test, test, test. Can you hear us online?
We heard him briefly and then.
I do.
Great.
There he is.
So you're in Vietnam right now, buddy, huh?
Yeah, I'm in Da Nang.
Nice, nice.
What time is it there?
Coming up on 8 o'clock in the morning,
Night.
In the morning?
Thursday. Yeah,
Oh, well, thank you for getting up early for us. I appreciate it, buddy.
it's not too early.
Early for me, it would have.
Yeah.
Oh,
Got breakfast yet?
Yeah,
probably gets started at 5:30.
Yeah.
it's all relative.
Having a good time?
I'm having a blast. This is week 5.
Week 5, how long's the total trip, buddy?
Closer to 7. So I go from here up to Hue and then up to Hanoi, and then I'm going to Hong Kong.
Okay,
And I got here from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and in Bangkok and all of Thailand before that, and Korea before that.
quite a globetrotter.
It's yeah, I've got a couple more bangs in my suitcase.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for calling in. I appreciate it. I understand if you need to drop off, this isn't costing you a ton of money, is it?
No, it's free. I'm on Wi-Fi in the hotel room in a Intercontinental. There's nothing wrong with staying here, and I'm not.
Okay.
I've got a car that will just pick me up when I'm done.
Okay, buddy. Sounds good.
Okay.
Oh, well,
Hi.
we have hey, Mike, we have the officer election coming up pretty quick, early in the session, and then there's, some informational stuff on the next 2 items. Did you get a chance to look at the packet?
I get.
But if you need to drop off,
always-
I don't. I just want to be here, and I read the packet yesterday from Beanbag Chair on the Beach.
that's pretty sweet.
I'll trade spots. Sick, this beanbag chair sucks.
$1.10 for the whole day.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's kind of unusual, a beanbag chair on the beach.
Yes, there's a lot of unusual things, I can assure you.
I'll bet. Okay, well, cool.
It sounds like Timmy's gonna join from online now.
Okay.
So we're just waiting for Linda and Elizabeth.
So I was looking at I'll bet you didn't get a chance to talk to the attorney about us realigning those terms, or did you?
I haven't got to, or she hasn't answered me yet.
Well, we'll discuss
But I
that.
think we should discuss it as a informational to come to the next meeting.
Well, if it's something that we could just vote on to realign,
What about giving direction to staff to realign it with Attorney Madison's?
I'll let her tell us how it has to
Yeah.
be done. I don't even know.
Cause she won't be on tonight.
Oh, she's not on tonight. Oh,
No,
okay. Well, if we
But I'm
can
hoping-
do that, here's what I was looking at. The only mistake there is we don't have anybody rolling off in 2028.
yeah,
And so it would be good if Elizabeth's, and she got on in
she
twenty
was,
twenty-four.
yeah, cause she took over Chris Rivera's
Yeah,
spot.
but, and that technically should mean that she rolls off in 2026.
Yeah,
I think that you guys should maybe not,
Wait.
Yeah.
No problem.
yeah, I didn't get to talk to Jennifer about that,
No problem.
but
I just was brainstorming. Please.
yeah, cause that vacancy should. Okay,
It's time to call us to order.
We don't have a quorum yet, buddy.
Oh, okay.
just need one more.
I like to be on time too.
Agreed.
Oh, here comes Tim Dugan.
Can be.
Yeah.
No, you're good.
Hey, Timmy.
All right,
All right, we technically have quorum.
let's go ahead and go. And then Elizabeth can join and Linda was not gonna be here, was she?
No, they're both supposed to be here in person.
Okay, well,
All right, so starting the meeting at 6:01. Let me do a roll call. All right, there she is. Vice Chair Williams,
Here,
Chair Reese,
here.
Commissioner Dye,
here,
Commissioner Pinciner. Here. Commissioner Mahold
Here?
and Commissioner Duggan.
Yep, here.
And we will note that liaison Pro Tem Sterling and Commissioner Glasser are not here yet.
Okay, thanks very much. Getting started with the January meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes?
They were very
Yes.
short.
Pretty distinct, yes?
Yes.
I did not see any errors. Did anybody see anything that needed any updates or fixes?
I didn't see anything.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes from the November meeting?
second,
Ready. I don't remember everyone who was here, so I'm just gonna run through and let me know if you were. Chair Williams,
abstain.
or Vice Chair, sorry. Chair Reese,
Here, yes.
update these. Commissioner Dye,
yes,
Commissioner Pinciner. Yes. Commissioner Mahold,
Yes.
Commissioner Duggan. Is he still there?
You hear us?
You
Jimmy?
just shake your head.
he's on mute.
Good,
Done.
okay,
Yeah,
got it.
approved. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, good to go.
Alrighty. All right,
Okay, then I don't see anyone here in the room, but if there's anyone online that would like to speak on a non-agenda item, you would have public comment, for 3 minutes. Please make yourself known and introduce yourself with your, and say your address, your name and address. Is that all that's online? What we see up there?
yes.
Oh, okay. Having heard none, I will close the public comment on non-agenda items and move to our first action item. Item 5.1, the vote for chair and vice chair. As you know, every year, this board votes within our members to decide who We'll continue for that next year as the chair and vice chair. We're gonna be having at least one change. I will tell you that I am interested in continuing as the chair. But if there's anybody else that has interest, I would love to have you let us know now. And if so, we'll just have a vote and see how that goes.
I did just want to add real quick, I updated it. I forgot to email you guys because I forgot to put Elizabeth on there.
Okay.
That was my bad. Hi, Linda. And
Have another year.
sit wherever you want. I think your thing's over there. But I made an update to that. I also, as we're going along with that too, there will be further discussion in our bylaws. We're only supposed to have 2 members, like, expire out per year, and right now we have 3 that aligned for the same year. So it might be a good idea to give staff direction to figure out what that looks like with Attorney Madison. I wasn't able to talk to her before this meeting and she's not gonna be on. But we're missing, the vacancy would be 2028 and then there should be another 2028 there. So we're still kind of digging into it. It was at times before a lot of you were on the board here. And so Macy and I have kind of been digging into that to try to figure out how that happened. But it might just be cleaner to just figure out what we need to do with Jennifer in order to get that back to the right thing. So I just wanted to add that as well.
You know, I
Okay,
didn't,
so we don't know how it happened, but we think that there might be a solution that we just tabulated it wrong. And we don't have any possible remedies yet until you talk with Attorney Madsen.
Correct, yeah, this, as far as I've gotten back to is when, remind me of her name. It was she went on the board of trustees, but she was a member of the planning commission and that's where it seemed.
Karen,
Karen,
Oh.
yeah,
Yeah,
seemed.
Karen
Getting all-
Blakemore.
Correct, Blakemore, that's what was stuck in my head, yes.
Mhm.
So it seems around that time and that's as far as we've kind of gotten our research.
okay. So
Okay.
as you, at the item, the agenda, the aim, you know, you can kind of see that people are rolling off every year except for 2028. So it seems clear to me that
Yeah,
we need to get 2 people slotted in to roll off in 2028 and then we'll
Agreed.
be back online, but we could discuss that a little more. You know, I jumped ahead and maybe I should have said this up at the bat. I don't know if everybody is aware that Commissioner Cornell resigned at the end of the year and is not gonna be with the planning commission anymore. And I'm sure if you looked at the packet, you saw that Steve is also gonna be leaving, traveling and stuff, so we're gonna have 2 vacancies that we're gonna be working on. So we're definitely looking for a new vice chair, also, and, potentially a new chair if somebody else wants to throw their hat in the ring. But that's where we're at with that, and we can talk a little bit more about that as we go along, but, right now, let's just do this 2
Yep.
votes separately.
Yep.
And what we'll do is, let's do the chair first, and let's see, is there anybody, if you would like to be considered, as the chair of the planning commission, please let it be known now. I would like to continue.
Crickets.
Is that, you're jumping in there, Tom?
No, crickets, I said.
Yes.
I
Okay,
would second yourself now.
having heard none, then you know, and that is awkward, I guess I did self. If somebody would want to nominate me,
I would like to nominate you as the next, as the chair, to continue your service as chair.
I second the nomination.
Dave.
Okay. Perfect. I guess writing this down. Okay, we're gonna take a vote now. Vice Chair Williams?
I assume I can still vote? since
Yes,
I'm
you
still
can,
here,
you
So I
can.
will vote yes.
Uh,
Closely with him over the years.
Commissioner Duggan?
Muted.
You can thumbs up. I see it.
Yeah, good. Sorry.
Okay.
Commissioner Glasser?
Yes.
Commissioner Pinsner?
Thank you for your service, yes.
Commissioner Dye?
Yes.
Commissioner Mahold?
Yes.
Do you want to not vote for
I
yourself?
will abstain.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your confidence. I will continue to try and lead this commission and be prepared and you know, move us forward as we continue to tackle these issues for the town. So now we'll move on to the vice chair nominations. Is there somebody who would be interested, since Steve is not gonna be eligible, he's rolling off, that would like to throw their hat in the ring to be vice chair?
I'll throw mine in.
Great.
I was just gonna suggest Tom.
Okay.
So I want to nominate anybody who wasn't
I
willing.
would second Tom and
Okay. Just,
consideration.
is there anybody else before we get too far down the road that also would like to be considered for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Linda if you would like to accept.
I don't want to because I'm on too many committees right now.
Understood.
Uh,
So the answer,
But thank you. The answer for me is no.
no, okay. I don't see Timmy saying he wants to jump in, so, okay. Then let's go ahead and, I make a motion that we nominate, or that we vote on the vice chair for the planning commission for the year 2026.
I second that.
Vote on Tom Mahold.
There you
Excuse
go.
me.
It's
I
okay.
apologize.
I was gonna say, who are we voting for?
Drop for a month there, and I seem to have got rusty.
Still Vice Chair Williams,
Yes,
Until-
absolutely.
Chair Reese,
Yes,
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes,
Commissioner Pinsner,
Thank you for your service. Yes.
Commissioner Glasser,
Yes.
Commissioner Mahol. Oh. Mahol.
Abstain.
Commissioner Duggan,
Yep.
all right.
all right. Thank you for your confidence. I look forward to working with you when you get back from Vietnam, Tom. And we'll sit, plan out some of the stuff that we're gonna talk about later in this meeting. So now going back to the alignment, so we're gonna have two vacancies. And my assumption is that Steve's will need to run to 20, as I'm looking at this, till 2029. So whoever takes over for him that will be the term for them. Is that correct, do you think?
Should be.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so then, what we need to do is figure out if Elizabeth's,
I think it might be.
were you willing to serve, until 2028, that 4-year term?
What was the commitment I made? It was a 3-year? And it would
Yes.
be up in 1 year, is that correct?
Well, we're a little confused on where.
Where it
your term,
started.
you were taking over
It's,
somebody
I
else.
feel like it's gotta be Elizabeth or Mike.
I mean, you want 2 of us to do it or you want 1 of
Well,
us?
somebody else is going to have to, once who joins, that will.
And we're gonna make sure this is okay with
He
you.
will be one, I'm gonna write that in.
I'll defer to you, Mike. I mean, I'll do my
2028?
best if you don't want to make the longer term.
You can also choose if you can't make that commitment, say you make it now.
Well, Mike's already aligned with
Yeah.
rolling off in June at the end of his 4th, so I don't think we can extend it.
Yeah.
Without it coming before the BOT,
Yeah,
but you will not have served more than
Right.
4 years, but if you don't wanna make that decision right now, we
That's
don't have to
okay.
talk about it.
Yeah, I'll
We-
do
we
my
can talk about it.
best, I guess. is
okay.
what
And if something
say.
changes, just a letter of resignation is always helpful.
Okay, so the vacancy, 2028, and then Commissioner Pensinger, hello, I guess, will be, listed as rolling off in 2028, and then would you just talk with Jennifer?
We will,
And
yeah.
if we have to have a vote or something.
I'll let
next
you
month,
know. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty.
Okay, I think that closes that agenda item. We were moving along real quick, so
Yeah.
they're just in time,
Real
yes.
good.
Is there any other discussion that we need to talk about, with the chair and vice chair?
I just wanted to say, I really appreciate all the help you've given me since I've started. I mean, you've been on every committee. You've taught me a lot of history. You've been very patient when I don't know the answer. So from staff, I've really appreciated you having as a chair and a vice chair. I'm excited that you get to travel and have fun and be with your family, and I think you deserve it. It's well needed. But I'm excited to still get your weather report, so I'll
Yeah,
keep up with you. And we'd love to have you anytime, so we're still gonna invite you to all the volunteer stuff, I hope you know.
I get a call.
Yeah,
What's that?
Who will be the longest serving member after you pass the tour?
I think,
Probably Jim,
yeah,
actually. No, Linda.
Linda, yes, for sure, I'm sorry. You've been around for,
You've been on before Jim, so
Yeah.
that's right.
it'll be Linda, yeah. Which is why she should have been vice chair.
I need to start saying no to some other committees, is what it is. It's
Fair.
hard to do,
yeah,
We get that.
you know?
Yeah.
It's just,
it's important to have the boundaries so you can do well the things you
With
say
things
yes
that-
to.
yeah. Agreed.
Steve, did you have anything you wanted to, say as your?
No, I think I put it into the letter that, I've really appreciated, serving over the past 25 years. Hard to believe it's been that long. A lot of change in this town, a lot of good things, mostly good things, which is good. And as I told my kids, I put that in again, that I'm off to make Netherland a better place to live. I hope that we did that, and I look forward to, it's been a honor to work with a number of committees, but the one thing that we've always had over the years, which I really have appreciated, is the chemistry of the planning commission. People who have served in other committees and have been on the planning commission have always said, this is the best group. This is the most fun group, to be with, because we work so well together. And certainly that is the case now. So keep up the good work, and I hope that the 2 vacancies coming up will be, will be a good selection. The other thing that's always been good is we've always had a nice collection of different, people with different perspectives, different backgrounds, both science, as well as, we have real estate, we still do with Timmy. And so, people with a lot of different experiences, so, and put all, politics aside, just to make Netherland a better place to live. So I wish the commission well and carry on.
Thanks.
Hopefully you'll miss
Choose
me
to
a
fill.
little
I
bit.
can
We
hear
will
you.
miss you. Safe travels.
You were so welcoming to me when I first joined the planning commission, and did amazing.
Sat down and
Yeah.
went through a lot of stuff,
Yeah,
and I didn't scare you away. I don't-
no, I'm still here. But still nailed to the floor.
Yeah.
So, no, thank you, Steve. And, yeah, hope you have,
We haven't go,
Great joy.
we go back
Yeah.
before the planning commission, so.
Well, I personally also want to thank you for your, I started as vice chair.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your guidance and your calm voice and guiding me on, on how to be a better leader for this board. And I really appreciate the 25 years of service. And I'm also extending thanks on behalf of my wife when she was town manager, when you were here for one of the 3, and with her for one of the 3 comp plans you saw the town through. So I really appreciate your guidance, and it's going to be a big brain drain of experience. So I might be calling.
Well, we'll be around.
Yeah.
I think that the planning commission working together so well has, no small measure has been influenced by you, because you're so good at calm diplomacy, that I'm not even sure you know how good you are.
But
Yeah,
You're,
that's it.
It sets the tone.
Well, it
Yeah.
comes from my work at NCOG. You have to be.
yes, you do.
All right. So that's all you have to do then. Then if my tone or I'm being a little too, just tell me people.
Just be calm.
I'll-
Okay, well, thanks so much. Let's move on to discussion item 6.1. The LOI grant application for the accelerator grant. I think Cass is here to present that.
Yeah, and Britt and I have been working on it together, and definitely relying on Britt for more of like the ADU side of things and transportation planning, but you may remember that I brought this grant or letter of intent to you all previously. And essentially this is a Colorado Energy Office funding opportunity that the main goal is to align with their greenhouse gas pollution reduction roadmap and implement certain policies and projects that help us achieve our state climate and energy goals. So they had in their guidance listed certain policies and projects that qualify. And then from those options, town staff went through and identified what aligned with our comprehensive plan and our multimodal plan, and came up with a list that was then brought to CEO staff, and we had a meeting with them where they gave us feedback. And based on that feedback, we can update our application, and that final application will be due February 18th. So that is coming up soon. And we will be bringing this to the Board of Trustees. I just did bring it to the Board of Trustees last week.
Last Tuesday.
Yeah. And they provided more feedback, which I also included in the same. And really, I think the purpose of bringing it to you all is to go over the BOT's feedback and kind of dive into some of the more specific aspects of the application that they want us to provide more narrative around. And since I wrote this, we have had a meeting with our regional coordinator, who is someone who works for a different organization, but is kind of like our liaison with CEO. So she knows a lot more, has worked with other applicants, and she's able to provide us with more information and insight based on those applicants and the feedback they received. So based on this budget right now, we have the standard budget and then we have the vision budget. So they encouraged us to apply with these two levels. Originally, we had 3 levels, so it's constrained, standard, vision. We are now going to apply with just 2, and mostly what is included in here are land use policies related to ADUs. So essentially the feedback that CEO gave us was that if we, to be more competitive and likely receive funding, we would have to meet the code requirements in House Bill 24-1152, which Nederland has to meet anyway, because we are considered a supportive jurisdiction. And so in order to meet that, we need to meet that, and then we can also go above and beyond that and become a supportive jurisdiction by providing one supportive strategy. So in our comprehensive plan, one of those strategies that we have listed is develop a booklet of pre-approved residential designs. And that actually aligns really well with one of CEO's example projects, which is to provide pre-approved plans for ADU construction. It's also, one of the supportive strategies listed in House Bill 24-1152. So if we were to basically hire a consultant to develop those pre-approved plans and provide that, then we would meet the requirements for being a supportive jurisdiction, and that would meet our policy goal with this application. If we did achieve that, then CEO would basically say, great, we're going to unlock project funding for you now. So you've done the policy side of thing, which is kind of that's their incentive, is to provide project funding if we meet their policy goals. So if we do end up adopting those supportive strategies, then we could unlock financial assistance for ADUs, which could cover the cost of impact and development fees. It could cover the cost of constructing new ADUs. We can kind of decide within this list what that financial assistance could go towards. And we could also create a tiered approach. It's something that other jurisdictions have done, is say depending on your income level, you can qualify for greater rebates. So that is another aspect of it. And then another ADU project that is listed in the vision budget, which I'm thinking that might be moved to the standard budget. So where it is right now isn't necessarily how it's going to end up. But the technical assistance project would be essentially hiring a consultant to provide technical assistance for Nederland residents looking to build ADUs.
So essentially a secondary hands to myself and Cass.
Yeah.
To like
Staff
help.
and an additional staff member.
So it wouldn't be a staff member, but like a consultant that could help us like run through that program, look at that language, see how we can become more supportive, make some of those recommendations so that we could work through it like we did with the housing study where we have like a work session explaining what that means. Cause that unlocks more funding from DOLA for us.
And then they could provide like workshops for residents. They could sit down one-on-one and help residents go through their plans for ADUs. That one again, I'm looking for maybe some advice and your opinion, if you think that that would be helpful, or if there might be a different type of project along the same lines that might be more helpful. And there's a lot to this application, so I might just pause right here if we want to talk about the ADU side of things, because that seems to be the thing that the BOT is in support of and wants us to move forward with.
Okay, with what you outlined, the assistance and the
Pre-plan.
plan.
Yeah, and there's other aspects to this that I want to talk about as well, but they're like more like transportation planning, so it's kind of a different topic.
Okay.
And so I want to talk about ADUs first, if
Okay.
that
Yeah.
is.
And just to remind you guys, we kind of talked, well, not we, Cass talked about this last time. The policy, so the whole point of the policy is there are some things that weren't adopted through that House bill that they're trying to encourage municipalities to adopt on their own. So then the second, like, project funds are now open. The whole point of that is to get us to adopt these policies they couldn't get through. And the project does not have to be related to the policy that we adopt. So the project could be sidewalks, which we'll go through further down the road, but the policy could be ADUs. Like there's several things that like they don't have to correlate. They just want us adopting policy, which to be honest, like I was saying earlier, being a supportive jurisdiction for ADUs, which like one example, which is in our comprehensive plan is allowing more than 2 ADUs, obviously have to meet setback requirements, but currently in our code, you can't have more than 1. That just right there puts us towards a supportive like jurisdiction, and it's a very simple amendment, but it's things like that, looking at that, how can we become more supportive? Because we do have current like blocks essentially to make sure there's not this abundance of ADUs, because you can only put so many on there with our yard and bulk standards. But we have a lot of prohibiting language that if someone could, they can't really do that with our current code. So just throwing that out there, like that's the kind of stuff that they are looking to see from us.
Okay, that sounds good. Is there any questions or discussion?
Yeah, what's the ultimate point of being a supportive community? What does that mean to the state? What does that do for us? What's the benefit that's down the road?
So when I was speaking to DOLA, because right now I'm working on the state compliance for ADUs, the
Mhm.
stuff that we have to do, they were saying if you become supportive, you unlock another level of funding essentially that we will be open to. For like housing related ADU specific funding, supposedly that's coming down.
And it is already, they have that option already, available for municipalities that have achieved the status of supportive jurisdiction.
Okay, that's a good reason.
Yeah.
Have we identified all of the things that would prevent us from becoming, to meeting this requirement of a supportive community? You mentioned one with the ADU can only have 1, but have we looked and figured out exactly what we have to change to be able to meet that?
Do you want to start or do you want me to?
I go ahead. I think it's
Yeah.
like the parking thing, right?
Well, no. For requirements, right now are the letter that we received from the state essentially states we need our accessory dwelling unit setbacks need to change, which that will be coming up. But, in regards to have I identified, no, that would be the point of some of this, of hiring a consultant to also look through that code length and like what are additional things we're missing. I will tell you, I've kind of ran it through, like looking through it today, just because in general, I'm like, is this stuff that we can start on? you can throw it in like AI and have it spit it all out to you, but it would be nice if someone could look at it as a whole too. Is there other stuff that I'm missing? Cause that's sometimes what's missed with code. We'll find it in one section, we won't find it in the other section. There would be a nice kind of set of extra hands there.
I guess I'm confused. I thought we had to become the supportive community.
So we have to become compliant with the state in order to have access to this. And the compliancy with the state is we currently do not meet the rear accessory setbacks for a dwelling unit, for an accessory dwelling unit. They did have a parking question. I was able to answer that and they did give me a thumbs up. Where our letter states that we have resolved everything but this last matter of setbacks, and that will be a yard and bulk table amendment.
Okay, so there's actually just the one issue to prevent us from getting to the supportive community. That
To
I've
get us to allowing us to even start on
To
that
start.
road. Yeah,
on the
yeah.
road. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So that's just like House bill requirements, like we have to do it. There is no other option.
I don't want to get too far down the road with this, but I just off the top of your head, you know what the yard and bulk standard needs to change to for the setback?
Yeah, right now, it's under the same setbacks as a primary structure and it needs to be the same setbacks as an accessory structure, which in some cases is up to 10, it's like 10, 15, 5 feet. It needs to match every single residential zone, the way that an accessory structure is located. So a lot of those are much smaller setbacks, because if you, like a primary structure, for instance, in Mountain Residential is 40 feet for a rear setback, and that in an accessory structure, I believe is like 15. So like
It's gonna bring the accessory units much closer to the neighboring properties.
yes, but it's a requirement that we can't get past. But if you think about it, how many people are gonna want to build up to their line on
If
that?
somebody's living in it though, and it can be done, it will be done. I mean,
But it's a state requirement, like we can't, there's no way.
but so they're calling it, it's got a different code than the residence, than the dwelling that someone's residing in, but it
Mhm.
is a dwelling that someone is residing in.
Mhm. So it's that the setbacks either need to meet how the state defined it as is your setbacks need to meet the accessory use setbacks for the rear only. All the other setbacks are fine. So it's just that rear yard setback, which yes, if you have a neighbor, that could come into play. But oh, where was I going with this?
State requirement?
Yeah, I know. I just totally, sorry, I'm really sick, so
That's
I'm
okay.
just trying to make it through the day.
There
could be other repercussions for us if we don't follow state
Yeah.
mandates.
But that is the one, it is just that rear, so I said, oh, that's what it was. So it either must be follow that, or you need to make it 5 feet for all of them. So currently ours are, our zones, like Mountain Residential is higher, and then you get down to like your high density residential, it's a much shorter, like 5 feet. But if we don't have that set in stone, like jurisdictions who don't, they're required to go to 5 feet for all of them. So we at least have that set in place for a lot of our zones. The likelihood that a high density residential can throw an ADU on there anyways is pretty slim. There's not a lot of minimum lot size there, because you still have to meet minimum lot size requirement, things like that. There are still these other setbacks.
Yep.
But that is a way that the state is identifying a way that allows an ADU to be easier to build. Although we have very restrictive codes, so I wouldn't say that it necessarily affects us if you actually go like looking at the definitions.
Okay.
But I understand what you're saying, like somebody will do it, absolutely. It's just the amount of lots that can actually do that are probably pretty slim.
Clarification question
Mhm.
regarding the state mandate. Is
Yep.
the state mandate, like, just, we have to do this?
Mhm.
Or,
It's House bill.
okay,
Mhm.
if we want to qualify for this,
No, we have to do it.
we have to do it regardless.
But if we want to
Oh.
qualify for this, we have to do
Okay,
it
yeah,
too.
okay.
Yeah, so the state, yeah,
Yeah.
that state rear setback that I was talking about,
Yeah.
that's the only thing that we're not currently meeting. That
Gotcha.
has to be done regardless of this grant. However, our requirement of this grant is that we must be compliant.
There has been a lot of conversation about this over the last few years. And you may have heard about it. It was in the news a lot, and it's about preemption of local control at the
Yeah.
state level. And there's a lot of people that don't understand why local control is important at the state, at the local level.
Mhm.
And so it's been a big conflict between the last few seated, the state elected boards that we've had, and then also the governor. Because one of the challenges that I think local communities have been saying is that we're enacting these rules without actually tying them expressly to affordability measures, like just creating density doesn't necessarily generate affordability. And so like there's been organizations like Colorado Municipal League that work on behalf of towns and cities and counties too. That have been kind of advocating for this local control and saying, you know, local governments are the ones who are really doing this work on the ground for affordable housing. And we also agree with the affordable housing. We want to make it happen, but we need to be careful about it. And so over the last 2 legislative sessions, there's been several rules like this that have been passed in efforts to kind of to promote density. But that's really been the primary concern, is density without affordable. And that's not the same. I mean, we can look at Singapore or New York or any of these cities and know density does not correlate like necessarily. Or it's correlate, I guess it's not, you know.
Doesn't make it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But you know, it's one of those things. So in this current legislative session, there's other things they're trying to do similar. And I would encourage you all to be just kind of aware of that and just thinking about local control in these situations. I don't think this board has done, I think Nederland in general hasn't been, you know, in that NIMBY stance, which is like not in my backyard to affordable housing. I think we've done some really cool things to promote it. But I think the state is sometimes disconnected from that work, and they're trying to do the right thing too. And they're good people working hard. But I think that that's hopefully what happens during these legislative sessions. I would just encourage you as you kind of listen to the work that's happening at that level. If there's things you'd like to testify on or anything like that, you can always talk to me and I can help connect you, or it's easy to connect to our people anyway. So, but it's just one of those things is what is, you know, local control is kind of a special thing in Colorado, and working through that system is probably more effective than trying to just, you know, like just put setbacks in every single zone district in the entire state without really thinking through the context of that. So it's one of those things though, that I think now that that is state law, we have to kind of roll with it and just make it work. And then, you know, continue thinking about the goals that you guys have expressed through the comp plan and through this body's work as we move forward, and just keep working on positive outcomes.
Yeah, and the good thing is this board and the board of trustees has obviously already put in that work in the article table by setting those different accessory use standards. And it is just the rear yard setback, which I know can be a big deal if you've got like a back neighbor, but it's expensive to build an ADU. So in general, like usually I tell someone the PIF and it gets shut down anyways. That's really where it lies. But
What happens if it gets built and it's overstepped? I mean, how does the town enforce people that build even closer to the
They
neighborhood?
have to go through building permit process.
Yeah, so it's,
and all that.
yeah, it's caught, like usually yard and bulk setbacks is something that I'm looking for in the plans, and then I have a secondary at Safe Built. But if somebody builds outside of that and Safe Built comes to inspect, they make them remove it. And they make them come within those standards because they have those set of plans that like town gave approval, Safe Built gave approval, and they look at those, and if it doesn't match, they make them, even if it's a window that has been moved to the other side, you gotta change it, or you gotta put revised plans. You can't put revised plans for a yard and bulk setback, cause that's just our code. So in that instance, like if their deck is too far out, they gotta rip it up. Cause the likelihood of you getting a variance is 0 because you've created that on your own. And that's part of the code for like the BZA, is that you did not create the hardship.
Okay.
So, sorry, that was a really long explanation, but
That was a
I
good
promise you it doesn't happen on my time.
Yeah.
I know, that is one thing where to me, it's like, I can't say, like, I can say since I've been in here, that is something that I'm very hard on enforcing, cause I can't get, if you wanna go for a variance and you didn't create it, I can help you there, but I can't help you if it's not listed in our code. So I'm very strict. I don't think people like it, but
Well,
I think you have to.
it's my job. It's my
Because if
job.
there's any chance that I can build what I want and then get it approved later, somebody, just like Elizabeth said, somebody's gonna try that, right?
No,
So I agree.
I've seen many people have to spend a couple $1,000s to get things revised.
So the setback at the current time, there's 5 feet, 10 feet, and
I think it's like 5, 10. Here, I can give you a really quick. So. Our current setbacks for the rear, again, are for accessory uses, and let's see, forestry still. Mountain residential is 25. It's 20 for MDR, 20 for LDR, HDR, and Yeah, so those are the main ones. So it's oh wait, I'm on the height. I'm an idiot. Sorry.
Say HDR.
Long day.
It's
10 feet,
for-
10 feet,
yep.
10 feet, 5 feet, 5 feet, 5 feet. So it's 5 or 10 feet.
And it wants to be consistent throughout.
No, so it wants us to drop down to that accessory use. Right now, our accessory dwelling units are the same as our principal uses.
Mhm.
So like in mountain residential, it's 40 feet. So that means the accessory dwelling unit is 40 feet. And now they would want us to drop down to 10 feet. So that's mountain residential,
For
for
the
instance.
rear.
Rear only.
Okay,
Kinda hurt.
what kind of timeline do we have to look at redoing this and is this coming up? Or is this coming up later than when we talk about the?
It's not gonna be coming up here quite yet, but I have 120 days to respond to their letter. I had called a meeting where I was able to get the parking, like a thumbs up on the parking. And so now I have 120 days to respond to this, and essentially what we told them is we are now gonna have to take these to the boards and just let them know. So this is something that I'll be bringing forward to just say like, hey, this is our requirement. We need to move forward with the draft. Is it okay if we move forward with the draft amendment? Cause there's not much discussion that can really happen there. And again, like I do understand the concern of it, but there's so much more from a person who sits down and is continuously having these conversations. If somebody can have an accessory dwelling unit, there are still, yeah, it could be pushed up. There's still these side setbacks they have to meet. And there's still the cost of it in itself that a lot of people are like, yeah, I think I can do it. And then the cost of a structure right now with building permits and PIFs and plans is like astronomical. It's crazy. So it's not affordable. So not a lot of people, even though it's a great source of secondary income, you gotta have the money to even invest in that.
But how do the smaller setbacks make it more affordable?
They think
Because-
that it makes it more density and
It's
they're
because
creating that.
they're talking about Denver. They tried to put Denver models on the whole state. That's where
Yeah.
a large part of the problem comes from.
Mhm.
And that's because there's just they need to take a more contextually sensitive approach to different kinds of areas. And so I think what they're saying is that we have a housing problem until we don't, then you having a big yard doesn't really matter. That's really what the crux of the argument is.
Yeah.
But it's really, again, they're correlating density to affordability. And we even know from Denver alone, looking at the density efforts in Denver, as an example, Northwest Denver, kind of where Elitch's used to be, they have increased the density by almost 3 times in that neighborhood since 2015. The net increase to DPS, Denver Public Schools, from those new housing units was 7 children. It's because it's not affordable housing. It's not just like community housing or whatever you call it,
Yeah.
for people to live in. And it's a challenge. And I think that we know that across the continuum of housing in Colorado, there's many needs. And we also know there's people who are maybe living in housing, maybe they could afford more if they had opportunities to move. And so there's a lot of policy pieces here, but the correlation between density and affordability is a very strong one. And there's probably truth there, but it's not, its correlation is really the problem. It's not.
Not a good fit
Yeah.
for Ned necessarily.
Yeah, and I think it fits with our goals. I think you guys have expressed you want ADUs and you want to make them easier to do where they make sense. So I think ultimately,
Yeah.
it's probably,
Getting us where we want to be.
it probably does. And like Britt said, we still have opportunities. And I think if we are able to get this grant that Cass is talking about, what it does is it allows you to like really work within this framework to think about what they are. You know, we've had a lot of conversations on the water wastewater side too about PIF fees. And the truth is that if we don't have people pay for their water infrastructure when they come into the system, that means every other ratepayer in the system that already exists have to pay for their additional impact. And that's why we have that fee. But at the same time, it is a practical limitation on development and in developing the right kinds of housing that really promote the kinds of things that I think we want for our community. So what we've been talking about is ways to figure out like a methodology to calculate a percentage, like, you know, what is a reasonable impact for X number of people, like based on the toilet and, you know, the water flow that we'd anticipate. Because one thing for Nederland that's contextually different is we don't have lawns. And so our water use per capita is different than it is in like
Yeah.
Lakewood. So these are things that we've been really talking about at a staff level. And I think one of the things that's really great about what this grant would do is it would bring us a consultant that could start tying this policy together. You guys did a lot of work on affordable housing variances, and I think it's really good. But and I won't speak for Britt, but I think one of the reasons we haven't seen more people taking that is because it is a challenging process. And it also, like the ROI for a developer, we're really relying on market rate interventions here but using market rate dollars at the same time to like have that happen. And so I think that as we structurally move forward, one of the conversations needs to be about if there are opportunities in our code where we can get outcomes that fit within the vision that you guys talked about. And then we talked about it extensively in the comprehensive planning process, like what neighborhood character is and all these things. I think that we can start really targeting like these affordable housing projects or workforce or whatever, where it really does result in the kind of Nederland that I think everybody knows we can be. But it really starts with, I think, some just targeted looking. And I think we all know like some of the things in the code that would be helpful, you know, that do help make development easier without making it.
But I mean, as far as concrete feedback to the things that you've proposed, why isn't it possible to offer a rebate on the PIF fee directly instead of a pre-designed plan for an ADU? I mean, as a developer or as a builder, I would rather have a rebate on the PIF or some
We need
reduction.
that money is why.
So we can,
I would say it's how
So
we
it's
pay
just
for
You're saying
toilets
it's just
flushing.
the steps of getting the grants funding unlocked?
No, so these are like options with the grant that like Cass has taken the time to identify of like our vision budget, if we could do everything, let's just throw all this out there.
Yeah.
This is what the cost would look like and see if they're like, go for it. And so being able to kind of make those decisions.
yeah, and also I want to say that like with the supportive strategies, if we are providing like, if we are covering fees for them, then, and that only lasts as long as the grant lasts, then we will eventually run out of that money.
Yeah.
And so if we're able to provide pre-approved plans and then also provide that financial assistance, and the pre-approved plans at least meet the supportive strategy
Okay.
for the House bill
Okay,
and becoming a supportive jurisdiction, while the financial assistance is kind of like an additional project that will help us.
okay.
I will say though, that if you were able to cut my PEF fee in half, I'd be a lot more likely to move forward with an ADU project if
Right.
it was, you know, what is it, 68,000 now, something like that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, if it was half that amount, and I understand they decide how they can use that, but that would be some feedback to take back to them, was that some of the people said, hey, these very high costs are barriers to doing it. And if you're looking to actually, even if it's in a short term, increase housing, if you then for 3 years said, we're gonna cut PEF fees in half, I'll bet you'd see a pretty
Okay,
uptick in ADU house building.
agreed.
So would the grant help with the cost of the PIF fees?
Yes, so we have right now in our standard budget, the financial assistance could cover PIT fees. And basically our standard budget is like everything we want, and then our vision budget is like, if you want to also fund this, we could ask for more money for covering more PIT fees, that sort of thing.
So there is an option on that.
Yeah,
The
and
PIF fees.
and right now we have both the pre-approved plan and the PIP and covering the PIP fees in our standard budget. So we're saying like, we want to do this policy. And once we like meet that policy requirement, we're gonna do both of these projects. And they basically say yes or no. So we're not, they don't get to pick and choose if we say that we want to do all of this. Yeah.
Can you help me understand the benefit of the pre-approved ADU plan that they're talking about?
So it's just, cost. It's mainly cost. So
That I don't have to get an architect
Mm.
to draw, because I can just take the town.
you can just take these
Okay.
pre-approved plans. And so,
But it
I
won't
think-
apply to many people in Netherland.
no, yeah, like,
There's no
so
flat
they would have to take like lot sizes and figure that out. But like all of our principal structures are all over the place. I
Hey,
can say that.
Britt, would the pre-approved plans, would they be like XYZ company that makes these prefab ADUs and they're like ready to go, and we would say, okay, these ones are good to go, and it bypasses a bunch of bureaucratic stuff as the person's trying to get it going.
Make that decision probably with the consultant, because like I'm not knowledgeable enough on that. I know what you're saying, because yes, that definitely does help with a lot. But the whole point of it is kind of either something similar to that, or just in general, providing it plans in themselves cost a lot of money. So whether it's like a prefab tiny home, prefab ADU that realistically you would be able to put within a yard, but maybe electrical's done or like some, obviously not the groundwork.
Right,
not
it's
your,
like plans you
being
could buy,
inside.
you could buy on the internet and anybody could make them. It's like, if you do this, regardless of who makes it, it's approved.
Or, yeah,
But,
Yeah.
but the benefit, has vetted these and said, yes, these are all acceptable, and I'm guessing there'll be a
which
streamlining.
towns are,
Yeah.
there are towns that do this, that do offer things like this and are going for things like this. Like I've been talking to Nicole that are able to now, like, yes, it's kind of a little harder for Netherland, as Elizabeth's saying, but like in different towns like Westminster or Broomfield, people can just plot these things on.
But
their
it
plate.
isn't also great from an aesthetic perspective. It's like you get the same look of all these prefab ones, you know, that are just,
Cookie cutter, yeah.
Yeah,
you know, and then they puzzle piece them together, which is, you know, fine, but I don't think it's, I mean, you can get that plan off
Yeah.
the internet and you can do it. You
yeah,
can have it modified by an architect.
yeah,
So it's not the greatest incentive, but if it unlocks where we need to go and what we need to do,
yeah.
I think it's.
Yeah.
One of the feedbacks I would have is, I would love to build an ADU, above a garage and build a garage, you know, and so if they're looking at plans, you know, include that in there, some things like that. I can promise you it's well out of my, cost, you know, as I've started to look at it, you know,
Yeah.
estimates in the $250,000 range to get a 600 square foot ADU above a garage.
That's a deal.
Yeah.
Also, it might be good to give the feedback specifically from the board so they can add more onto that. Cause I feel like we're getting into the weeds of some of the stuff I have.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
That would be an integrated EDU or ADU by our code, what?
Yeah.
It has to be
Wouldn't
integrated
a
to the
separate
primary
PC.
structure.
Oh, right,
Yeah,
okay.
If
so
if
it's a
attached-
detached,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Elizabeth knows.
Sorry.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
nonetheless.
Okay, well, I don't wanna get too far into the weeds, I
No, no, it's okay. No, I think this stuff is great. I just want to make sure you guys know what the board felt was most important, so you can also add on to that.
Okay,
But no, that I think that's valuable because most people that are looking for an ADU want it above the garage. It makes more sense to have an apartment garage. And as someone who's lived in one of those, it's more convenient to be above your garage than be attached to your house. So,
well, as someone who doesn't have a garage, I really don't have a garage.
yeah.
So I'd love to do a 2-for-1 kind of thing there, and I probably, have family members that would need a place to stay at some point if I had it. So, okay, were you gonna give us some feedback from the board?
Yeah, in terms of ADUs, I know that, they all were very supportive of that as like our policy and, honestly, like, I don't think they provided much in terms of like specifics other than just, that they definitely were in favor of the financial assistance. And
And the supportive aspect.
yeah, and the supportive aspect, and then they kind of held that over the technical assistance, but still like we're wanting technical assistance if we get approved for that. I think in terms of financial assistance, it makes sense to me. We're thinking, you know, covering PIF fees, at least partially. But in terms of technical assistance, there's a lot of directions we could go in with that. And just like trying to think for our community, for Netherland, what do you think people would most resonate with? Would it be workshops? Would it be having toolkits and guidance, like a website? Like, what do you think you would want as a Netherland resident to help build an ADU?
I like the idea of dedicated staff hours for people to be able to call and ask questions. You know, and I appreciate how much research you've done and actually know the rules and know what you're talking about. And so to have somebody who had that expertise that was, even if it was just an email and they could get back to me on that, that would be great.
Yeah, this is random feedback for me that I never thought of, but probably be good to have this person also work with State Built because our packets are pretty outdated and my hope is State Built is lost, but there's also State Built comes from a technical side of like, you need your soil reports and this and that, and there are other little things that we could probably work on where I'm like, you need your review with this and this and this, that like.
Almost like a procedure.
Yeah, because right now it's just me
Checklist or-
regurgitating all that and providing them with some packets.
Right. Yeah,
So-
having more like streamlined.
Yeah,
Lists, like you're saying, okay.
to go with those sitting down, calling, like the
Yeah,
Yes, to
additional,
support that.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
The checklist is helpful, very much like we did with, SRUs and
Mhm.
things so that people know exactly what they need to do.
yeah. Yeah, the SRU is like the most helpful thing, that packet, yeah, helps a lot.
I will say that if you had a workshop or a something here at the community center, like once a year or something, especially after these changes have been, and said, hey, we're ADUs, and put it out on, in the paper and on Facebook and say, hey, you have any interest, informational about what it takes right now to build an ADU in town? I would certainly be here, because I'd love to know, I don't even know nearly all the steps, and so I think that unfortunately, a lot of people, like Britt said, was, okay, they start thinking about it, they finally get to the point, and then they come and talk to her, and then they find out, ooh, it can be 3 times as much as I thought it was gonna be.
Correct.
And they have to reframe, but I think there's a lot of people that, like me, that are very interested in finding out what, and oh, by the way, coming down the pike, maybe there's some other things that can help, that we're looking at initiatives, so. And I'm not saying you, maybe, what was it, the Department of Energy, or
Yeah.
whoever it was, CEO,
Yeah.
yeah. If they have a representative that can come down and do a
Yeah.
workshop for a couple hours and just answer questions about ADUs, I think that would be awesome.
And I
Yeah,
think
we
the
don't-
more information people are given, it helps you because everyone's not calling for,
Right.
it gives them the packet.
Yeah, I
to
spend a
read.
lot of time talking to people.
And-
Review out on the webpage would be helpful.
Ooh,
Yes,
that would be
Yeah.
very good too, that's a good one.
yeah,
I think it's also good for the town to see that there are efforts being made to hear and respond to the housing issues, and this is one of the ways, even if it's a little bit, kind of roundabout.
Yeah. absolutely.
But it's a discussion that's active.
Yes, and honestly, because of the cost of a primary structure, I think that, and that's the way the state's looking is ADUs, what's cost $800,000 to build a house, so if you can build a ADU for 250, or 300,000, maybe that's the case. But, yes, that is something that I think a lot of people, including myself, would be interested in. And I think that, you can always do some feelers too, put something out, a sign up list and say, hey, we're considering doing this, in, sometime this year. How many people would be interested, put a little petition, not a petition, a list, an interest list on the town website or Facebook or something. And I mean, if you get 30 people,
Mhm.
wow, at least half those people will show up.
Yeah.
So I'll be there. So, okay, any other feedback that people have on the ADU portion? We still have the transportation piece, and then we have to get to PC priorities for the night. Tonight, I mean, excuse me.
If not, then I can move on to the transportation aspect.
Okay.
So in terms of the EV procurement policy, that is something that the board, gave explicit feedback that they do not want included in the application, and that's really because CEO basically said, if you want to include a EV first procurement policy, you have to include that you are requiring basically you are required to switch to EVs once you retire a vehicle, and the board of trustees and staff aren't really comfortable with that. We want to prioritize but not require. And it's not, taking this out isn't going to hurt us because it wasn't a very high ranking policy in terms of their guidance. So we just kind of are making that without that in the application. That doesn't mean we can't revisit this in the future and make it something that works for Nederland. So then talking about the other side of the transportation piece, with transportation planning projects, we can receive funds for design and engineering plans of different transportation projects. They don't want to give out money for construction projects, basically, because it triggers a lot of federal requirements, since this is money that is originally coming from the EPA. So we are applying for just the design and engineering plans for projects. And those plans could then be used in other grants, saying we have shovel-ready designs. These grants have construction funds, and that's kind of where they come together.
So we could take suggested projects from the transportation plan, the multimodal plan, make those engineering ready, so then if another grant comes along that pays for the construction, we're ready to go. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly, yeah. And I've run into that before where I've found grants that are saying,
Right.
oh, if you have a plan, like, we want to fund it, and we don't. So that's where.
Would that be sidewalks and?
Yes, so out of these options, we have trail and sidewalk expansion, bus stop upgrades to be ADA compliant, have shelters, improve access, and then a secondary bridge. And out of those three, the BOT really emphasized the trail and sidewalk access expansion, especially on First Street, was a consensus. And then kind of the second trail expansion was going from Old Town all the way to the high school, providing that connection. And then their kind of next one was bus stop upgrades, because I believe it was Harris said that NEPIDAC might have funding for the bus stop upgrade, like construction, so you can kind of
Or
combine
even
those.
RTD, it used to be that they would
Right.
have money if you were ready to go.
Right,
Yeah, I'm
So-
on the NEPIDAC board and I think we'd definitely support that. We've got a surplus that
Awesome.
needs to be
So-
spent.
So maybe bus stop should be bumped up to number 2.
yeah.
Did you take that feedback from Tom back to the BOT when you talked?
I will,
They
yeah.
got it from Tierney as well.
Yeah, but yes, I'll definitely let them know. And then the secondary bridge, there were a lot of aspects to this that just didn't really line up for this grant. So originally it was included, as pedestrian, bicyclists, and emergency access, but it became clear that the BOT wants to have car access as well. And it seems like that is a priority for a lot of residents, or at least that's what they were saying. And the other aspect of that is that this grant is trying to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, so they're unlikely to fund things that are more like car-centric projects. And then we also don't have like an actual, single location that we are going to put the bridge. So it would take a bit more coordination of figuring out how to make those plans if we don't have a single location.
Does it hurt to leave it in?
Yes, I think we want to try to,
You're trying
Make
to
it less
focus in?
car centric.
yeah, also focus on the projects that we want to focus on the achievable projects, I think. So I think that was part of what we were trying to do, is just make sure we had a work plan that staff knows that we can achieve.
Well, what I'm saying is that if, let's say the secondary bridge comes down the road a bit, something happens and all of a sudden we can do this. Does it hurt to leave it in as part of a potential project?
If there's a risk in losing funding because they think. the
That's what
bridge is
I'm
gonna
asking,
generate-
essentially,
But I'm
right.
saying, she had said earlier that because it's gonna generate more traffic and car use,
So it may
that
hurt.
it could hurt us by being something that doesn't align with the overall vision of reducing.
Yeah, I think they're focusing on multimodal, so you would have to make sure that there is an emphasis on pedestrian and bicycle access with that bridge as well.
And why was the BOT not supportive of just leaving it at that and not including the car piece of it, which maybe could be more
Mhm.
helpful to leave in then?
I wouldn't say they were like against it. I think they just were saying like deprioritize it, like put it, like we have the standard and then the vision budget, so like put it in the vision budget, maybe.
But
There
why,
is-
why was it that they were advocating for the car use of the bridge?
It's for egress. And they're concerned that if it's a pedestrian bridge, it might not work. There's possibilities it could, but the project is not advanced enough right now to like really,
Dive into.
yeah,
that
I think
level.
there's multiple problems. One is we don't control all the property we would need to make a really good decision. So engineering design also is federal money, so there's Uniform Act requirements. I think the other problem is like when we think about what that bridge will do, the intention would be a secondary egress if the other bridge is incapacitated. And so that I think is one of their concerns is if it's primarily bike and pedestrian oriented, they want to make sure it's,
Out of town.
yeah, they want it built for a fire truck. So there is bridges that accomplish that goal, like you can buy them that are primarily pedestrian and then they can have a bollard that can be removed. But I think we need to, it would be helpful just to have like a little bit more than we have right now for figuring it out. But I do think that project is still, we're still moving that project one way or the other, so.
They would need a specific location though, wouldn't they?
Yeah, it would make me more comfortable to not be designing on property we don't.
Right.
Yeah. So it just, yeah, for this project or this grant, it didn't make as much sense in terms of being like competitive and then also just not having all of that like extra detail. I will say the regional coordinator recommended that we do come up with a little bit more specific projects. Like we say this mini bus stop upgrade. So looking at all like the number that we have in Nederland and saying what we want to do for each one. And then for trail and sidewalk access, I think what we can do is say in our standard budget, we want to do like this many miles in these locations. For our vision budget, we want to tack on this many more miles in these locations. So kind of prioritizing, you know, where trail and sidewalk access should be.
What about crosswalks, for safety reasons? Would that be something included?
I think if we're expanding trails and sidewalks, then yes,
That would be
that would
included,
be
yeah.
just like for the safety
Part of the
aspect.
multimodal.
Yeah.
plan.
Right.
Yeah, so good question though.
And are we able just to lift what we have from the multimodal plan and submit that and say, hey, these are the trails,
Mhm.
the specific trails we want to improve it? Road improvements. Yeah.
I mean, that would be the best thing because we already said, you
Yeah.
know, we have these plans, we adopted them. But I think just from me looking through those plans, it wasn't necessarily clear like which ones we should prioritize. And so that's kind of why I'm coming to you is to like figure out, you know,
Like,
Where
if
else?
there's no sidewalk shelter or any real safe place for that bus stop that's right near, the roundabout, the one that then heads into the canyon.
Mhm.
So like at the top of the post office hill. I don't know what the name of the stop is, but
East Street.
is that, oh, thank you. Is that what you're saying is not specific enough that we're not saying that level of like this number of bus stops where they need to be upgraded? Or are you saying that we don't even have the bus stops listed in that level of detail as improvements?
no, I would say it's more like. I think I'm more thinking about the trail and sidewalk expansion because we have that like map of where we want to put these,
But we
trail
have
and
to
sidewalks.
prioritize it.
But we have to choose which ones. With the bus stops, like, yeah, it might become more like which bus stops are the priority, but I know that I need to pull it up, but I'm pretty sure we have them like outlined in
Okay.
that plan.
Okay, who would make, and that would be, the staff would kind of say, okay, pulling from the multimodal plan. And do we have to then, or would it even come to us, or does it just go directly to the BOT to recommend, these are the trails that, like the one to the high school, whatever it is, you know, going, that we want to improve and sidewalks, you know, along these roads?
Yeah.
I'm not sure how the process would work.
I think this is a gap where our boards are not fully equipped to deal with a project like that. And it could be, there's been some talk about like an infrastructure board or something like that. There's obviously going to be land use connotations there. So I think you would definitely see it. I think SAP would be interested in seeing it too. I think we'd want to bring, you know, pro SAP, but we'd want people to be able to work on that project. So I think what really matters at this point is get funded, like understand what the priorities of the funders are, like how that works, and then figuring out, like maybe they're like, we'll fund this project and not this project, so that can make our decision. But if we do come up with a bigger decision, we intend to be bringing forward community engagement through an infrastructure management process to like really start talking about what these priorities are. Because we have several that are like a priority things, but how do we start sussing that out a little bit? And that's something that's going to happen in 2026 so that we can start working on that. But I think that's a question that we want to make sure the board weighs in on to make sure that that is moving around appropriately.
Yeah, I think, right.
Because in theory, the whole multimodal plan is all approved, so
Yeah.
all of those could just go forward, right? Because we already got community feedback, we already did all those processes.
Mhm.
And so now it could literally come down to just the staff saying,
Proceed.
yeah, proceed on these three.
Or do the engineering
Yeah.
work behind some of the.
The project that was going on from the library down to Jefferson Street and we were working with CDOT, would that be part of this?
I'm not sure I'm familiar with,
Say that, which one?
It was from the library going from RTD and the library going down into
Well,
Jefferson
that
Street.
is gonna be done by summertime,
And that, oh, it is,
Yeah.
and CDOT has,
hopefully. We've been
Okay.
trying to put it out for bid. We have a little bit of challenge there, but we're hoping to get it out for bid in the next month and then they would start that construction.
so that would be
around Judy.
completely separate from
Yeah.
this. Okay.
That one though it's all ready to go. That project's completely shovel ready and ready to
Okay.
roll out. We've also got the First Street project, which is basically in front of Town Hall over to the,
Yeah, that was part of that.
yeah, so that whole bit is basically ready. There's a couple of temporary easements we need. Again, for Uniform Act requirements, just to build the sidewalk where we need to. But that whole piece of the puzzle is basically designed and ready to go.
Okay.
That's exciting.
so.
Yeah, I am very
It's a
excited. about it.
long process for
Yeah.
that one.
So this is from the multimodal plan and its future pedestrian bicycle facilities. And it's kind of hard to see from the screen, but we have, the proposed new concrete sidewalks down First Street. And then I believe down here is the existing one and then proposed that kind of goes from Eldora, or no, sorry, that's Pizza. That's Eldora Road, so it's showing one along Eldora Road, I believe. And so I think just like from this map, I think
Yeah.
like we have priority, high, medium and low. But I think it's still important to like bring it back up and not just assume,
Specifically identify which of the list. Okay.
yeah.
Well, certainly I know for a long time they've been talking about that route to the high school, getting done and,
Mhm.
I hope that, I'm sure the BOT also would like to see that. So, well, this is great. This is good information. Is there feedback from the folks online about the transportation piece of it?
I'm gonna look at that. That would be at this time.
Anybody in the
Like,
room?
what
have
is our exposure by declaring these as intentions? Is there any exposure at all?
Everything that Cass outlined is either in the comp plan or the multimodal plan.
Yeah, that's my thought.
We're already in that space, I think. I'm just gonna be shining a light on Cass for just 1 second, but she did a really good job in this staff report, I think, for the BOT in this process of really thinking through the comp plan and the multimodal plan pieces. So I think like,
Mhm.
while we may not know everything, I think they're really well aligned to the priorities we've been talking about.
Good, okay.
Trails are on public property.
No. That's one of the things that's a challenge for us, is that there are a lot of those pieces. That's another reason why, how we do these things are at times tricky.
But so how can they be prioritized as trails if?
There's nothing here that hasn't been discussed with people, but it really boils down to like, we need to have those conversations and make sure that everything is feasible and possible. But I understand what you're saying. And I think one of the things that's a challenge for us is we do need to advance prioritization and design on some of these projects while still managing that part of it too. But there's definitely, that's something to be thinking about.
Easements with
Yeah,
property owners?
yeah, and it's similar, I was just telling you on the First Street project, we have to get a couple of temporary easements. And oftentimes that's the process by which a longer trail like that is built. But there is definitely legal process that needs to happen in some places, not across the board, but for instance, the high school, that's one of the reasons the high school sidewalk doesn't exist, is it just has to cross some private property. And then CDOT property, which is always a process.
Okay. This is outstanding work. Was there other stuff that you wanted to, anything else you wanted to touch on, Cass?
I don't believe so. Yeah, I think as long as you're comfortable with staff, kind of making, like, obviously using the BOT's recommendation and then like making, decisions from the multimodal plan, about which to, prioritize in standard emission budgets, then, yeah.
So I agree, and what I would caution against is us revisiting and trying to go back through a process that's already been done.
Right.
Like, okay, we picked 3 that we're already approved of all the other trails that we're gonna prioritize, and now let's start having public comment and stuff, well, we already did that.
Yeah,
You're right, so we don't wanna, because what happens sometimes, I think in these plans, I was here for the multimodal plan, but that was like 6 years ago, right? And so what happens is then there's new people come on and they want their input, and then there's new people in town, and we never quite move forward with the plan, and then some naysayers come in and they say, oh, we don't wanna do this because of that, and so.
It happens with the board all the time.
Yeah, what we want to do is continue, if any place that we already have done the process and got the approvals and the public and everything's voted on, my personal feeling is we should move forward with all haste, never possible. Because what I'd like to see is stuff getting done.
yeah, I mean, unless you have any other comments on aspects of the application,
Anybody online or here in the room have other final comments for Cass?
So just to confirm, we're not gonna get to look at the top 3 trails that are picked as priorities, or we will have that opportunity.
this is kind of the opportunity to like provide that, like, what you think, should be prioritized, and then I think that is something
I
that,
guess I think it should be prioritized that we don't build on people's private property.
But I don't think that that's. I understand what you're saying that, but I don't think it's the most relevant point here. We would never build on private property without their express permission to do so. And a lot of the trails here have that's already been like a high level conversation in Nederland. And sometimes like in the case of like the high school trail, I think that parties involved have been talking about that for like since.
Yeah, it's crossed. that-
Yeah, so I think what it would be is if that there would need to be
You're
additional.
not surprising anybody with
No,
saying, hey,
we wouldn't like
just,
condemn it or do anything like that. That wouldn't work. We would just say like, this is something, if it works for you, works for us. And, a lot of times that's just a process that happens in right of way projects. And so, I agree with you though. We would never do a taking in this situation. It would be a collaboration.
Thank you.
That's, that,
And or prioritize something to start construction on that we didn't have the permissions and the variances and all those things in place, right? Or.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, okay.
Right.
Other comments for Cass?
Cassie, you want to say just something briefly about the matching funds?
Yeah.
On how that might, fit into town priorities and stuff like that.
yeah, so we, submitted in our letter of intent a request for a 0% match, which they said they would grant to some jurisdictions if they can prove, like through their budget and such that they are experiencing hardship in terms of like not having the money to do these things on their own, and not having the money to provide that match. And Britt and I have discussed that, and how we can kind of in the full application show that, yes, we are experiencing that type of hardship that they're talking about. We do not have the money to put into these projects, because we're, using it all on essential things. So, that is what we're, applying for. We can, revisit the match conversation if we are awarded, and they say, no, you must provide a match, then we'll revisit that with the BOT. Half of the match can be in-kind staff time. So, Britt's time and my time, John's time put into this, and then the other half of that would be cash. So that would be something to consider in April if we are awarded and if our financial situation has changed at that point.
But from your packet here, we're only, even if they don't approve that, it's only 5%, right? Our match.
Yes, yeah, 5%, and then half of that 5% is staff time, so it's not even full 5%. Yeah,
So 2.5%
pretty much,
potentially
yeah.
for which is a pretty good deal.
Yes, and I did hear from our regional coordinator that they spend a lot of time on the negotiation aspect of the contracts and figuring out the budget, so I think that part of that time would be spent figuring out how do we make this work, with Nederland's budget.
Okay, final questions for Cass? Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you for
This
your
was
time.
well put together.
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay. That was a good discussion. I appreciate it, and it'll be interesting to see if after the election, if the new BOT still has the same priorities.
Thank you.
No, didn't even get a flinch from John there.
A little bit, a little bit.
But you got a chuckle from Linda and myself, so.
Yeah, are you good?
Okay,
We
so,
can
Cut
kind
off,
of,
so thanks for coming.
so our next
Sorry.
discussion item that we're gonna talk about is 6.2, the work plan
Thank you, Gab.
update and comprehensive plan goals. Basically, this is our work plan for the year. We started last year identifying goals and presenting them to the BOT for approval, and getting their guidance on things that they wanted to approve, and that's what we're gonna continue with. There's a good list. I'll let Brett go ahead and present that.
Yeah, so, just in case not everyone had the chance to read it, I'm gonna read it pretty in depth. Just to discuss what we've already done and kind of really structure us for what we want to present to the board this year. We all gotta keep in mind that in April, the board could be changing up. And so keeping that in mind, but what are things we can do until then? And also, let's create this plan, because if there is new members, it's nice to see, the previous board is seeing us work on this. And so continuation of work, creating that fluid, hopefully not a change up every single time. And so we'd like to contain or remain, working on these projects unless priorities change in the extent of depending on what town looks like in a couple of months. But regardless of that, this aim is really just to build on top of this. I felt like this would be a good way to start off the year. So we could kind of discuss what are some policy gaps we still have, or some realistic starting points that we really need to start diving in as a board. And then prioritizing what staff is bringing to this board. So in 2025, our work plan, we brought forward to the board in June. Some of our already initiated or time sensitive were our Natural Medicine Act code update, which was completed and adopted by the Board of Trustees on August 5th of 2005, 2025. I don't know what year I'm in. I liked 2025 or 2005. I'll go back. Clarifying that deed restriction timeline, that was completed and adopted by the Board of Trustees August 19th, 2025. And so that is something the Planning Commission worked on both of those, and they adopted exactly what we sent them. So housing action plan and proposed 1, 2, 3 implementation. That's in response to that House bill and that commitment. Town staff is, continuing to work on housing related policy, some of these compliance state things that are coming up. As well as working with different developers on potential land still with the affordable housing and our Prop 123 goals. There was so one thing that I will have to work on again is we did do that housing study. There are compliant things that still need to be up to date by the end of this year. So that'll be a big project of mine this year. We also this will be coming forward as well. It's called fast tracked is what you've heard me refer to it as. But it's just that consideration of adopting code language related to the expedited review process for affordable housing. We do have currently, it's set up where we meet the 90 days, but there are a lot of other requirements that we're not totally zoned in on. If we can adopt that language before the end of April, it opens us up to more funding, which is huge. Right now, we are on track to do that. I've been working with some consultants through Boulder that were provided for free, and I was able to use them as a resource to kind of bounce off, here's where we're at, how do we get compliant? And there are a couple options that we can go through. So that's going to be its own aim in itself, and that's something we have to do. That has to get done.
And can you just tell us and if you have an idea on when you think we're gonna see that?
Yep, so I'd like to this is how I currently have it structured in regards to time, because we will have 2 vacancies, is going before the Board of Trustees February 3rd, because there are a lot of different options to kind of narrow them down for us, so then I can work on the amendments with the Planning Commission. And that's really just to kind of hone in on, we won't have as many people, and to make sure we're going in the right direction, so time is expedited and efficient. versus coming here and we going one strategy, and that's maybe not what they're wanting to see.
Okay.
So that was my thought process behind that, but I'm happy to hear if anyone's totally against it. The other thing is tracking our process or our progress towards our commitment of the 12 affordable units over 3 years. We still have not met that, but John and I are having some conversations with the state right now, on if there are housing that could be considered for that we currently have, or, just what that will look like if we can't meet that goal, because it takes time, and we're still talking to, different Boulder and different developers, and it's just, there's a lot of
Supposed to be new builds.
Yeah, so 12.
Not
new-
necessarily.
12 affordable built units. It does not necessarily define new builds, which is kind of the conversation we're gonna be having with them.
That already done.
What are they defining as, or how do they define affordable in terms of rent per bedroom, or rent or total rent, or what are they looking at? What's the number?
I can't, sorry, my brain's not totally there.
It's based on our median income at the time that we certified the Prop 123 requirement. So there
Right.
was had a formula where you had to go in and set, and then they figured out based on their studies how many units you had to do and what AMI they were set at. But it's probably, I don't know our AMI offhand, but we can find out, but
I'm
it's
gonna say
probably 60 or below.
I wanna say it's 60.
Yeah.
So when I new as in not new build, but new as in not what we currently have, I've talked to many different communities, our current affordable units are accounted for, but it's 12
Additional.
Yes.
Question.
but it doesn't mean new. What the conversations we're having is, does that mean it needs to be that new construction? Because there could be opportunities for the town for different units that could come available, is all I can really say at this
And you
point.
can't
And
ballpark what an affordable bedroom price is, what they would consider an
It's
affordable.
dependent
That's
on 60% AMI, so
Yeah.
that there's a whole factor that goes into that. But typically what you do is you figure out AMI, and then you figure out the percentages of AMI and the target at 60%, what that would be. And then there's a chart for the metro area that says what a 1, 2, 3, 4 bedroom should be.
And I have to confirm with them, but I think it has to be like restricted in order to be defined. I need to look at it. I've created an aim
But no
essentially,
ballpark
and I'm meeting
bedroom
with the
would you-
state, huh?
They don't have it. They don't have a number for us.
Yeah, I don't right now, but essentially we're just trying to see because that could cut off funding if we don't meet that requirement. And so John and I are just trying to meet with them to see other options we have, because in realistically 12 new constructions, affordable units is not.
No,
Not
but what if
viable.
there are people out there that are renting to people below
Mm-hmm.
market value that just don't know that they're meeting the criteria for?
Yeah, I think we would just have to ask them and see what that would look like from like a
Britt's been talking,
agreement standpoint.
you've also talked to people in Boulder who have some tools. Allow us to count what's called NOAA housing, which is naturally occurring affordable housing.
Yep,
And there are ways to use NOAA housing in that calculation,
yeah,
but really it's very complicated. The state needs to help. So that's why we're meeting with them.
Yeah.
Because we think there's other possibilities. Like there's,
like you're stating, like
Yeah.
people that are doing that, but I need to know. How do I count that? Is there something they need to provide me in order for me to state yes, and will they count that towards our goal? So just trying to find that creative way, because I think it's possible for us to come up with new construction. but that
You could
not at this
provide
timeline.
the lease, so you.
Correct.
The contract, but the
Yeah.
problem would be if it's restricted or not.
Yeah,
Just because you're offering it affordable in 1 year doesn't
yeah,
mean you're.
doesn't
gonna
mean
do
it
that
has
in
to go
5
up
years.
slightly.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, so we need to see what they would count, like what they would be content with us counting that and what that would look like to a homeowner.
the other
Yes,
thing is,
This is a priority setting session. I think I'm hearing this is a priority on our list.
Yeah, so we.
It's gonna come up actually, a
we
little
meet-
later down the line.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we meet with them, I believe it's next week, so I'm sure there'll be more to come on the next meeting of like what
Mhm.
that looks like. And how staff can start doing this and what the board's helps would look like in regards to that.
And if the internet hasn't lied to me, the AMI for Netherland as of 2023 was 103,000.
did you pull that off HUD or where did you get it? The stat?
that says it was off of HUD.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
There's a couple
Yeah.
like there's a couple different surveys that have it. And so
Yeah,
this is like one of the challenging things about affordable housing is the numbers change depending on, like they change
Yeah.
slightly depending on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
which will also be coming
Yeah.
up on our list as like talking about is that AMI and
Yeah.
finding affordable.
right.
But that
Yeah.
doesn't.
Actually, the very
that
next-
I didn't forget you.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, no, no, I know. I never thought that. you would.
That
But-
doesn't take you to the per bedroom.
Right,
affordability rate.
and so if I recall correctly, according to HUD, it's deemed affordable if it's, so 60%. of the
30 to
AMI,
60, 30 to 60.
30 to 60%.
Not
Um,
necessarily.
uh,
So the way it works is there's no definition of affordable housing. That's one of the challenges we have in this
Mm.
country. There is a definition of
Mhm.
cost burden. Cost burden means you're
Oh,
not
okay.
spending more,
Right.
depending on who you're talking to, than
Yeah.
30 to 35% of your net income on all housing related costs, including utilities. So typically what you do to figure out what is affordable, this is why terms like workforce housing are not helpful in these conversations, and like attainable housing is a code for market rate housing. And that's okay, like those things need to happen. But usually what you do to figure it out is that you would go off what a cost burden person would be under those methodologies, whatever we would determine that to be.
Mhm.
And then you figure out the AMI based off that percentage.
Mhm.
What typically happens though is we find out that, especially in mountain communities, that methodology doesn't work very well because
Yeah.
typically you're
Yeah.
gonna have to spend more no matter what. So what a lot of things that have been happening in Colorado, they started doing rent averaging. So even some affordable housing projects can go up to 110% AMI or 120% AMI, as long as they average it on the bottom end of the rental. So like you could say this rental is targeted 60 to 80, but they can take up to 110, but that means they have to go down to whatever has to happen to average it. So they go to 40 to 120 or whatever. So
But so they'll use more like if the average bedroom in Ned rents at $1,000 a
Yeah.
bedroom, then they'll use that as the common denominator and
Right.
the 60% of that.
Mhm. It's a little bit of a nebulous target, but the thing that's really critical when you think about this, there's a couple of things. One is affordable housing quality matters. The quality needs to be measured. And that's the ROI for the community that we get. One of them is deed restriction length. And I know you guys have extensively talked about that, but you don't build town hall and then sell it in 20 years. The other thing is that like, when you think about what equality means, if I can't have a dog, if I can't store my stuff, if I don't have a parking space, if I cannot reasonably interact with my community from my house, if it's not safe, those things matter in affordable housing too. And when we think about what an affordable housing intervention is, if we're going to intervene in the market with dollars, we need to be thinking about our ROI in terms of those things for quality of life for a resident. And again, going back to the DPS example, if we have housing that's not creating a more livable community, then we need to talk about why that housing is why are we investing in that housing?
Right.
So I think for you guys, I think the really important thing is when you think about housing, don't necessarily think about it's affordable if it's 60% AMI.
Yeah.
What's more important is we have a continuum of housing and you have appropriate housing across that continuum. That's how like Chaffa talks about it now. Like you need to, because a lot of, I'm not trying to go too deep here, but gentrification happens when people stay in houses that maybe they've moved past, or where neighborhoods that used to be affordable become less so because the rent gap goes too high because the land value is more than the improvement value on the land. And so what we need to think about is that when we intervene in the market, whether it's through a variance or just the cash or whatever,
Mhm.
there needs to be some mechanism to make sure that it produces the result you want, whether that's senior housing, which is a need we have, or family housing or work, J1 housing, whatever you call it. So I'm sorry, this is like one of my
No, this is great.
my soapbox
Yeah.
things, but I think that this is you guys have done a lot of work in this space, and I think it's one of the best things about Nederland is you guys are very deliberate and thoughtful about how you think about that. So
Thank you.
Well, one of the things, and this has come up multiple times, and Mike has brought it forward, and it's coming up on one of our midterm goals is to kind of identify AMI affordable housing, kind of come up. I think maybe what we want to do is come up with a number for our community.
Yeah.
Like literally, let's figure out, let's get together and have an aim on it at some point this year and come up with what we consider. And if nothing else, we have all these other numbers, but residents of our community have said, looking at market forces and everything that's going on, we think whatever the day, $1,000 or whatever it is what we're shooting for. And if nothing else, when people come from the state and different places and they say, well, we have identified for our community that this is what we are charging.
I would suggest one thing that we do when we do that is think about the demographic you're addressing. If I'm addressing a person who, like, let's say it's a J1 person that's coming to work at Eldora, there's quite a few of those in the community. A J1's housing needs are looking different than my housing needs. I cannot afford to move to Netherland right now. That is 100% true. I would love to move to Netherland. It's not current, like I keep looking, but it's not happened yet. So like my needs are different, right? And I think like I'm at a continuum that maybe I don't need help and that's fine. But
They
there's
need to be on the bus line.
yeah,
or they
like,
need to
right,
be-
yeah. And so like, how do you build a continuum of housing where you say, okay, yes, we have really high-end homes that exist, like, but how do we build, you know, houses that really promote people who are going to be the people living in our community? So demographic based, because you're honestly, you want to build that continuum. You want to make sure that there's some place to go. If you are a person who needs 30% AMI housing, maybe you don't need that many units, but a lot of housing studies these days, and I think ours kind of gets to this idea, but it's maybe something we could develop more, is like how many housing you see like 30% AMI? How many do you need between 40 and 60? How many do you need be 60 and 100? And then the other thing is, this being the community is, I think we all know this to be true, there are people struggling here in that 100 to 120, 140% range. That's a gap too. So how do we promote a whole housing solution across that spectrum, but really target our investments where they're the most useful? Because maybe you don't need to be investing in the 140, but maybe like you target the investments towards that like middle range, which is a really useful strategy.
I agree, but I think being able to, when we say percentages, just like Elizabeth said, it's very hard for the public and even me and folks to conceptualize what that means. And so I think it would be a good goal to come up with an
The reason I
actual
think
concrete
it's so
number.
important is because I think there may be a lot of people in Ned who would be happy to offer a more affordable rental rate if they knew what those
Yeah.
numbers were, or they may already be doing it and just like they have a lease with the person who's living above their garage, and if that could help count toward our 12.
Yeah.
You know, if people actually said like, oh, you know, if you're renting a room for $600 and that's considered affordable here. Or maybe you were renting it for $750, but if you knew it could really be helpful to rent it
Yeah.
at $6, you might be willing to.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
we
a
could
fair
do a
one.
chart. We could create a chart that says this is what a salary at these AMIs would look like.
Yeah,
That, I think that is the.
Yeah.
We're trying to
You
get
can do that.
the actual numbers.
There's a little bit of nuance there too, because it's like, are you a single income family? Do you have kids? It changes. Like, so AMI can change based on how many people are living off a salary.
Categories.
Yeah, we
At
can do
least
that.
it gives you a
Yeah, we
footprint
can-
of what you're trying to achieve.
We can definitely do
you
that.
dogs count?
You wanna do it?
Yeah, the dogs count.
Right.
So many,
Cause mine's expensive.
No, I think that's an amazing goal, and I think it's important to document the methodology, because it's fantastic if we can arrive at some set numbers for right now, but a year from now, it's gonna change.
Correct.
And if we can have a methodology that we can easily revise.
Formula to be able to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Good, well, that's a good goal. I'm sorry we hijacked your presentation.
No, you're so fine.
Yeah.
I think these conversations obviously show what's priorities for us, and I think that's a good thing. So the next category that I kind of had from our work plan were like our midterm priorities, which this is one of them.
Yep.
The planning commission has expressed interest in reviewing and discussing that AMI to target the evaluated consistency with our regional data involving affordability standards and local housing needs. So we kind of just discussed that.
I
Again,
think that the takeaway that needs to make it into the minutes is we'd like to see that further
Like a
tied to an
formula.
actual number.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even if there are categories for a family or individual or whatever it is.
yeah,
So that, just because it helps us conceptualize, you know, if you say 120% of AMI in Netherlands is $3,500, then we go, oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, as someone who's a numbers person, I get that totally, and I'll make sure to put that in the minutes. Our secondary was the accessory dwelling unit ordinance review. So that is another one I was just kind of speaking to you guys about, that fast track. So we do have to make some amendments to it. There are different ways that we can become compliant. The main issue that we have to is that 90 days has to be more defined. There's a lot of different options. So again, I would like to present it to the board just to narrow us down so that we can really focus on the meat and potatoes, which is getting those amendments, making that ordinance. Or if they give us several options, we can really focus on what the best approach is there, because we have seen them do that before where they're like, yeah, we're not really sure. And so there are a couple different options to get us there, but that amendment does need to be made regardless of that money. If I get it done by April, then I can get us money, which is huge. So that's what I'm shooting.
So that's actually more of a,
That is a
First-
top priority for me that I already have on the Board of Trustees, and based on their feedback, I will be putting on our calendar for likely next month.
February, okay.
Yep, yes. And then. Let's see. Oh, so this one we kind of just talked about in Cass's. When I originally started this AIM, there was a question about possibility of parking requirements in our ADU code not meeting it. They wanted to have less requirements. We meet that, and we also have a section in our code that states, you know, if by chance there's some talk of, you know, the owner needs something, they can go with that ask essentially. So we have a process for everything in regards to making that ask before the
You
Board of
reduce the
Trustees.
amount of parking required.
Correct. Yep. And so that's already stated in there. So that makes us compliant in that parking requirement by the state. But that rear setback is the one that, yep, has to be changed. And so absolutely. So that will be brought forth. The other thing that we had mentioned to the Board of Trustees that was kind of in our midterm goals was starting to talk about that industrial flex zone and just the zoning review in general. So we began talking about, you know, we really need to essentially define what that looks like in that zone. What other uses come with that, what looks appropriate for the town and the surrounding areas. This, of course, that discussion will happen with those private landowners along that lines, but that discussion is something we identified that we really wanted to get a start on this year. And the other one, which we did move forward, is the design criteria and overlay district, so that downtown sub area plan. We did move that forward to the board. Oh, I have an error kind of in there, but we did move that forward with the Board of Trustees. Right now, there are still some conversations. I'm really I'm having a meeting this week with the original, the Cheney Bosty was the part of the company that worked on this. And so we're really just giving the fire department the foundation of where some of those numbers and things came from. And then this will go to the Board of Trustees. And when it does, I'm going to invite all of you, whoever wants to come is more than welcome to join and kind of speak to how we got there. I know Chair Reese will be there. But I will make sure to keep you all in the loop. We're just trying to do our engagement all around, although it's been done with the public, just really zone in because we had some changes in leadership in the fire department kind of through some of that engagement. And so just getting everyone on the same page before we have that conversation, because they're going to want to come to that conversation as well.
But right now, the fire department is not in favor of the increased height. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So
No.
that's where we're trying.
More conversations are to be had. They want to kind of understand where that engagement came from and all of that. So we're kind of going to go through that same process with them, except for a little bit shortened, just a meeting to them to ask direct questions and Cheney to kind of answer them from a consultant standpoint versus just staff.
You'd wait for the new board to do that.
We're probably gonna try to move it along. And get it done in,
Before?
yeah.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And I agree with that because
Yeah.
the current board is aware of everything
It
that's
has-
gone into the process.
Engagement.
Particularly the short timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're relatively close. We just need to make sure,
Okay.
dot the i's and cross the t's.
Yeah, this conversation, once this conversation happens, I think then it'll move it very quickly to be on the Board of Trustees calendar.
Okay.
I just wanted them to have the opportunity to have the same opportunity that you all had. And I sent them videos on like our planning commission meetings to like,
The work session.
to what, yep, to run through all that. So,
We did a lot of work on it. We don't want to go back and.
No.
Yeah.
no,
They can. go.
no, and I think the board is pretty on favor, but what we're just trying to make sure it all aligns. So when those conversations can be had with the foundation so that they're very good conversations.
We just wanna say, we don't wanna say we missed something. No.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, we also don't want to be playing catch up with everyone where it's kind of like, okay, now we got to bring you up to speed, where this way everyone could be on the same page. And then have those hard conversations.
It's that gonna possibly happen as soon as February?
yes,
I think so. yeah.
Okay, okay.
Um, So for our long term, the planning commission wanted to continue to studying and discussing the comprehensive plan. There's a lot of identified near term and long range implementation goals or priorities. And so we wanted to continue to work on that, which is kind of what we're starting at now. And also something that's been identified, I think since I started here, is looking at chapter 16. And identifying how to, honestly, it needs some amendments, it needs some work. It needs some clarity. There's obviously this new state compliance coming. There's things that as staff, I'm identifying as I'm having conversations with people. And so really trying to figure out what's a long-term solution to get that to where it needs to be. I think a lot of work's been done on that code and it shows. But it would be nice to get it all within one clarity.
I'll tell you, if you want to take some feedback to, I'm not even sure who, DOLA or CML, and just say, boy, if you
Consult.
really want to help our small towns,
Yeah.
start providing some
Code
expertise
amendments, yeah.
to help us to clean up our code.
Yeah.
You know, and make sure that we don't have conflicts and everything aligns, you know, because I just think it's a big ask.
It
To
is.
say, you guys that are our community volunteers, start having work sessions on the side and figure this out.
Well, and think about it. How long did it take us to get through a deed restriction timeline? That was such a short, almost sentences. And so to me, I love the idea of us breaking out, but I do think it would help to have a professional come in and kind of like we did with the housing study. Here's some recommendations I have. And then now we can do the hard work of let's sit in a work session and let's dig through these. And I think that would benefit us more.
But I don't think it's fair to say, okay, and now Britt or
Yeah.
one of our staff member.
Yeah.
Carve out an extra 5 hours this week to be prepared to lead this work session, right? You know,
Exactly.
I feel like, you know, some experts, subject matter experts
Yes.
at the state level, you know,
Yeah.
can see, you know, so if they're looking for goals and things that their small communities can help with, you know,
Mhm.
and it's not just chapter 16. I'm sure there's communities that have lots of
Lots
codes that
of-
they can have, so.
yes.
That
We
would
have
be-
other things too.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we have more than chapter 16, but yes. No, I agree. That's definitely feedback I'll give them because that is something that we do get sometimes from DOLA or different entities like that asking what could we use. Obviously, it depends on how everything is structured, but that's definitely good feedback. So now we're gonna go in. That was kind of what we presented to the board in June. We've made some accomplishments there and some of it's, but you know, is coming forward with like the state's requirements, so it's already gonna be pushed forward. But I took the opportunity to look at the comprehensive plan and
Do you mind if we pause for just one
Yeah.
second? Let me just do a check-in with everybody on the planning commission. Is there anything that you want to give any feedback on for what was covered so far as for these goals? Or is there additional goals that we have not covered that you think we should be looking at? Great,
Yeah.
let's move on.
that's fine. Yeah. And so what I did want to outline is now I've gone through the comprehensive plan goals and you'll see some of these kind of tie into the goals that we have. But there's also additional ones there. And so I'd like us to reframe our work plan is really what I'm going for here. Is we have some stuff that's going to be immediately coming to you here, but let's reframe it so we can start on it. And hopefully with this, you know, we'll work through what we can with the board we currently have and then see what comes in April. But I'd really like to have this established plan so they also have something to work off of. So we don't, what I've seen in the past where it seems like it kind of goals change, but if you have new members, kind of like we had new members here, a lot of our new members had stuff to work off of. So I'd love for them to have that and then, yeah, tweak it as necessary. I expect that to come, but let's try to give them a good foundational plan that we worked hard to present.
Is there anything, you know, we certainly understand that there's things that requirements will come up that we'll have to do. Is there anything that you know of that's not in here that is coming down the pike that we're gonna have to focus on?
Well, we will have a couple special review uses coming to the planning commission.
Okay,
I'm expecting one by next month. It's been turned in. I just gotta make sure processing will work out in time and I have everything. But there will be a couple kind of from the fire, where we'll be seeing some of those special review use. John, was there something you want to?
Not about land, well, potentially there's other land use, there will always be that possibility. I just wanted to note too with, and you guys already kind of talked about this, but the new board coming. There's always the potential. One of the things we're really trying to do is build the continuity between the old board, and the new board, and you all and them. So there's always a possibility that things change a little bit once they come, but.
They might direct some
Yeah.
other,
But I think that's one of the reasons we want to bring this back to the board in the near future, to them to review your goals. You had already brought that work plan, some of that work's done, so we're just saying, hey, this is what we're doing in 2026, that's our North Star, and we're headed towards it,
yeah,
so.
what's your feedback? Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
here's what we've accomplished. I think it's huge to show since June, we've accomplished several things that are pretty in depth. So to me,
You know what I didn't see listed in there? The comp plan.
that's true. I should add. I will add that. I'm so sorry. I think I just tried to forget it because now I'm on to what do we need to do inside of the comp plan? Yeah.
It's under the umbrella.
It is. So starting with our comprehensive plan goals I outlined, land use and community character goal. So direct growth to appropriate locations, prioritize infill, support affordable housing, and preserve Netherlands' historical mountain town character. I really wanted to like point that out because we were talking about some subjects that make people nervous with infill. So potential policy discussion topics, evaluating zoning code concepts related to minimum lot size in select residential zones. So that was something identified in the comprehensive plan. It can be a conversation we have, just looking at those zones. Do we feel they're still appropriate? Obviously, there's a lot that can come with that. I know that can be a scary subject. Discussion of off-street parking standards for multi-housing units. As Jim has done a lot of work on, there is parking around town and Linda, I completely forgot it was both of you. I think I hear about it from Jim more. But they did a lot of work on parking, and yes, there is parking within town, but it is getting harder and harder on some of these lot sizes for that off-street parking. So really having that conversation for some of those, thinking about we need more housing, what does parking look like? Considering of affordable housing as a use by right. So for this, that conversation is going to come more with this fast track. That's something that she kind of brings up is, should we look at it as more use by right in some areas? Or if we're really going to stick to the special review use, which is okay for some of these larger projects, do we need to be looking at, we need to be sticking to that strict timeline. So like, that's one thing that comes up is you could make more than 4 units use by right. That is something that towns are doing. That's not something that our town has typically shown an interest in. But if that is the case for these affordable structures, we've really got to dial in our timeline. Which is something that I think has typically been an interest of this board in the past. And that discussion is, that's going to come about regardless. But that's really what that like dot is referring to, is starting to look at, we don't typically allow multi-structures or multifamily to go without special review use. Should we allow it for an affordable housing project? Review of PUD requirements to assess opportunities for streamlining. I think we had kind of started on this and there was kind of some back and forth comments with this. I think it would be good to just continue to talk about this and still make sure we're all aligned. I need to pull up the minutes from that because I think I was pretty concise on that, but it was just something mentioned in the comprehensive goal. So just bullet pointed here. This next item we have already done, the discussion of First Street overlay zone consistency with the downtown summary plan. That we've kind of already done there, but that was something that was also outlined in our comprehensive study. Considerations of tools to improve consistencies between development approvals and the comprehensive plan. Let's see.
The overlay district has still not been approved by the BOT though, right?
No, it hasn't. But this, I would say we have discussed, I think, to the max. But if something comes back, something comes back. We never know.
Yeah, okay. Which is a big reason why I wanted to go when that's presented. So hopefully I can head some stuff off.
Absolutely. As soon as I have that, I will definitely send this out to the board. So anyone's welcome to join.
Okay.
The second really goal that was kind of outlined on here was housing affordability and diversity goal. So increase our diversity in our housing. and affordability to support the residents, workers, and also our aging in place population. So potential policy discussion topics here. Review of the housing action plan to develop to meet that House bill. It's a really I don't know that that's necessarily gonna be a conversation here. I think that's gonna be something I bring you guys, cause I do have to amend the housing study to bring it up to code. I am looking to our original consultants we use to help me with that, cause there's a lot of details that have to go into that. That is something that I'm still kind of acquiring as a skill. Like there's compliance within the state where there's gotta be percentages and homeless population is mentioned. There's like a lot of stuff that is just a little bit out of my realm. And so I am looking for help on that and trying to get that quoted. But when those amendments come, that is something that will be presented to this board and specifically outline kind of how we like redline stuff or have those additional, it's gonna be very obvious on what is provided in there, but really it's just going to be additional data. It's not really gonna be amendments on like, I recommend this goal. It's more so data and things we have to add to it. So not the fun stuff.
Plant stuff.
Yes, yes,
Flash.
correct. So again, ongoing evaluation of that Prop 123 goal and how we are going to meet that. So I expect more to that to come as we get to meet with the state on what that looks like and how we can engage our community and inform our community on it. So if there are interested people and we are able to do the room aspect, maybe that's conversations I'll be able to have. So discussion of ADU regulations and potential expansion concepts. Again, I'm sure as you saw from that grant, this is something that I would like to continue discussing, like the fact that we only allow two. I know I think there are better ways that in the past I haven't presented that I could present on where we find those spheres of like, but then somebody could have like 6 of them. And showing you guys, I think those numbers of like the reality of that happening and a lot of these lots is probably slim, but allowing us to get to that opportunity to open us to more funding. So maybe there's more funding I can pursue to make that a possibility for people or to have more of these plans or whatever it might be that it opens us up to. I'd really like to have that opportunity as staff. And I do think there are ways as a community we could continue to become more friendly. I saw you guys do a lot of work during that work session and start to understand like the ideas and like what could actually happen even with us making some of those changes. So I'd love to continue to work on that. And that's like yard and bulk and everything, just looking at it, having the conversation and understanding the comfortability of you all with the engagement of the community. And then exploring the evaluation of inclusionary zoning, density bonuses, or land-based affordability tools. So kind of talking about that, creating a formula, density bonuses isn't something necessarily we can do right now. But with grants like this, it could be something that we're identifying here. And so maybe as grants come along and we're able to offer those in short periods of time to certain tiers of income base, could be a good thing to discuss if that ever came about. And then coordination with peak-to-peak partners on regional housing incentives, including the multi-jurisdictional housing grant with Gilpin County, Lyons, and Clear Creek. Sarah is set to present that final presentation to the board February 3rd on the outcome of the feasibility to do a multi-jurisdictional housing. I do plan to bring that to the planning commission as well. Essentially what I can say is it's not feasible for any community to do it this year, as you've all seen our budget, and a lot of budgets are looking like that across the state. But there is some feasibility to it that I think will be really interesting to kind of show you guys and talk through of what that could look like for Nederland and those peak-to-peak regions. So I think kind of establishing that. So really it's just keeping you guys in the loop. So our number 3 was natural resources, hazard, and resiliency goals. So this was reduce wildfire, flood, and climate risk while protecting Nederland. Potential policy discussions is review of land use and build-in regulations for alignment with the wildland urban interface best practices. So continuing to monitor our code and kind of like our land mitigation plan, wildfire mitigation plan. There we go. Just to make sure we're within best practices, working with the fire department. I don't know if you guys saw, this is slightly off topic, but they are hiring a wildland boss. It is something, you know, that is very, after the fire, there's a lot of things that have come from that. And so they're really looking into that wildland portion. Something we should be doing from a land use side. Discussion of defensible space and home hardening guidance in the development review. So this is something that we kind of work with Andrew Jocelyn, but I think we could, with them, could be working on tools and maybe presenting to the board of ways like we were talking about earlier to really make a packet that's beneficial for some of these homeowners on their requirements, and there are things we don't require, but we recommend. So really streamlining that kind of development process. Continued consideration of floodplain protection and hazard map integration. Alignment of hazard mitigation strategies with grant opportunity and partner agencies. So continuing to look for anything involved with mitigation. And my goal would be obviously to work with the fire department where town can help. So yeah. So going on to number 4, sorry, that's my alarm. Economic development and arts and cultural goal. Strengthening a diverse, resilient local economy while supporting arts, culture, and essential services. So some of our potential policy discussion topics could be discussing adaptive reuse opportunities downtown. Evaluating zoning flexibility for commercial or light industrial areas, which is really talking about that industrial area, which we all refer to as Wolf Tongue, and some of the private property owners in front of it. As you guys know, that did come before you as a minor subdivision, and that did get approved by you guys and the Board of Trustees, and got recorded with the county. So a discussion we should probably start having, so that there's use in that area. Identifications of regulatory barriers affecting childcare, healthcare, and professional services within our code. Coordination of economic development discussions with housing and transportation considerations. So requested planning commission discussion and guidance. So what I'm really kind of bringing to you tonight is really refining this work plan, kind of consolidating it. And then what I would like to do is bring it to the board or have some kind of joint PC board discussion in order to talk about these adopted goals, policy direction, like really get us on the same page. So we're working again with the consideration, we might have to have this conversation again as we get a new board, but let's get on the right path so I can create us a very efficient and just like meaningful calendar for these PC meetings. And then provide guidance again on prioritization. What topics may warrant early focus versus, you know, some that we think we could talk about in the mid future. What longer term items may need to be deferred due to capacity, funding, or statutory constraints. I think it's good to keep in mind, we'd love to have some of these opportunities, but we don't have the budget. I am only one staff member. And yeah, just what we can do as a town. So I'd like us to keep that in mind of looking at this year's budget and not knowing next year's, what do we think is actually we're able to do. And then just discuss how we want to kind of present this plan to the Board of Trustees, whether it be a discussion item, if we want to maybe ask, you know, with John's kind of advice on like a work session, would that be more beneficial? So we can support that alignment prioritization with our strategic planning process. So yeah, I know that was really long and that's a lot of information. And that's kind of why I want to discuss this. It can continue to be a discussion. It can continue to be something that maybe we're like, hey, let's work on like, I work on an AIM, I present it to you, it's a draft, we bring that to board. It can be however you guys want it to be. But my goal was really, I just want to have meaningful PC meetings and make sure that instead of packing 6 item, if we need to pack 1 item and have big discussions like this, that's what it is. And then just know in the meantime, we will have land use applications, we will have SRUs coming forward. There will be things like that,
These
so.
are items to work around other regular business that will.
Correct, yep, that we can just, yeah, it doesn't have, there's no specific timeline, but let's kind of create that work plan, so this can always be that in the background, or like, there's a meeting with no land use, let's talk about that item, let's start having these discussions. I think we did it really well in the sub area plan, and I was really proud of that progress. I think we did it really well in the housing study. And so I'd like to continue kind of that progression that we've been doing as a board. So sorry for that long drawn out. But I tried to stuff it all in there so you could see
No,
what
it's
I,
well,
I'm
well
looking at.
prepared, well prepared.
Okay.
And it's probably more of a working agenda than you realize.
Yeah.
Because it is really well outlined to be providing us with some concrete
Mhm.
things to tackle.
Okay, perfect.
Last chance, Steve, you could change your mind.
Is he trying to get you to stay? I think he's
Yeah,
trying to-
yep.
There's another guy.
I know who you're talking to, but.
What, we can have him as a featured special guest.
For a year.
Just for a
Yeah.
year.
Why would you want to reduce it? To me, if it's a working agenda, why wouldn't we want it to be expansive?
Yeah, I think it's fine with how it is. I don't know if maybe there are some of these items, like we have our compliant ones, which I'll put to the top of the list, right? Because we have to have those conversations and I already have them scheduled with you. But maybe there are some of that, like, do we want to talk about the affordable housing definition in AMI first, since we need to meet that Prop 123 goal? Because how do we meet that goal
Yeah.
without
The discussion.
exactly? So it's just like, that's in my head, that's kind of where I was going of like,
That overlaps even with the regulatory barriers.
Exactly.
Toward
yes,
healthcare, professional and affordability. So I
Yes.
mean, I think identifying kind of top ones and
Yes.
have this be kind of a running thing that we may even add to as
Agreed.
things come up.
yeah, and I think I will probably keep the structure very similar to this. And, you know, maybe just a little less dense and like just more bullet point of like, here's where we're at, here's like what we're looking at. But yeah, in my head, if you want just some feedback, like something that came up a lot last year is that AMI and affordability. So to me, that screams top of the list
Agreed.
because of all these other things we identified. And then now we have this parcel that's been subdivided and we eliminated a use, but there's not a ton of uses you can do in that zone. So I think it'd be good to start engaging with those private owners and engaging, you know, with the board and the PC of like, what does light industrial look like? What does a flex zone look like? Does it just mean light industrial uses? Does it also mean commercial with it? Does it mean residential? Is that appropriate? Like, I think that's a great conversation to also start having, but I am here to serve you guys, so.
Well, I think
Happy
some of it
with
is also gonna have to do with staff capacity.
And I'll let you know.
So.
Yeah.
I think I certainly would be in favor of going forward with the AMI, you know, having that come before us before, you know, let's say May, you know, before the new board gets in place, so that we can try and have something to work from.
Okay,
You know, next month's probably too soon for that, but, you know, that requires some legwork on
Mhm.
yours. you
Yeah.
know, For us to kind of start to figure out like what you talked about, John. Okay, if we're gonna start putting dollars, you know, amounts to these, then we have to figure out what's the.
I can help Britt with that part. The
Yeah.
chart is largely set by federal policy. So I think we can get to that piece of it pretty quickly. I think the bigger policy question for you is, Michael, I think just your point, is what am I, like, what is the, like, if you think of it in terms of an intervention, like, what are you willing to do for what AMI? And I think there's need across that spectrum, but I think that's the bigger policy question. So what we could do, if we bring you that data, so you have, and that's community survey data, like that's through the census, like essentially, I think we can bring that to you and then you guys can interrogate that question.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about what incentives we might offer if
Yeah.
you were willing to meet 50% of AMI.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about incentives, it becomes a board conversation, like board trustees thing too, but I think for the work that you guys, what you're asking for, I guess what I'm really saying is, we can bring you the data you were asking for from
Yeah.
reliable sources.
Okay.
yeah,
That would be great.
And maybe talk about if we do want to define what affordable housing means to Netherland.
Yeah.
Since as John was saying, that's not really a statewide.
You know what'd be great? No one else has a concrete thing. We do for our town.
I would think that was so, that personally, I think that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Because people use a lot of buzzwords that mean nothing, and it just really is ways to get to like. I think that doing that would be amazing, so.
But because
Yeah.
it is such an evolving number, I think what Mike mentioned earlier about the methodology is
Yeah.
really important,
Yeah.
that we have a transparent way of showing how we arrived at this number.
Correct.
And then we can plug in new numbers and new considerations if needed.
Yeah.
Or even if it's just the source, if it's not our own formula, if it's just what formula we're using as a source.
Yep, yep, and it's better to identify a formula than have like a hard 60% means 3,500, because then we're amending it every year.
Yeah.
But it's easier to amend if
Well, you could say
60%
as of.
changes.
Yep.
As of this date, that's what that was.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah.
so what the numbers I think would be helpful for is probably like an informational sheet for like somebody coming up to me and saying, what does that look like?
Yeah.
What does that look like if I rent this out?
Well, and wouldn't that be great to have a cheat sheet like that
Oh.
for somebody like Rasham, who I've talked to every time I go to Kathmandu? She says, I want to work with the town and build affordable housing. Okay,
Yeah,
great. Yeah, there's a lot of things to go into that.
The reason
Yeah.
that I use methodology and not formula is because the process that we arrive at, the formula
Yep.
is as important as well.
Yep.
I mean, what Jonathan just mentioned about the federal policies, which I know they're out there, but I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
And so that step is like the first step in the methodology of becoming aware of what the larger picture
To
is.
be fair, they may
Yeah.
have also recently changed, and so maybe we'll bring some historic data to you too, so you can kind of look at what
Yeah.
that's looked like in the past.
And that's
And
gonna
then
be
the
expected in the
culture
future with
that's built
changes.
Yeah.
behind
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
owner.
Yeah,
So,
yes.
great.
I'm gonna ask, if anybody has feedback or questions before I suggest a course of action. Now would be the time, give me all your information before I make a suggestion. Anything you have, as far as additional priorities, or anything that doesn't fit?
Shared my thoughts. Thank you.
I think a lot of,
Consideration of what we can do to reduce the burden on town staff.
You guys have done a lot of work.
super knowledgeable.
Yeah, Rich should talk, but you guys have done a lot of work, like, that is supportive. Being willing to meet for the work sessions on the sub-area plan were very productive, as long and, sluggish as they are, they were productive, and I think we can keep that moving. We've been talking a lot about aims, like how we write our aims and making sure that we are getting to good questions, like that you can give us direction, so we're moving. Those are helpful. Those are the most helpful part of this process. And then figuring out if we do end up with these working groups, what that looks like a little bit. But I think do you have anything else you'd add?
Yeah, I was gonna build off of that. Definitely helping with what more you need in an aim to make a decision. Cause there are some things that I'm gonna be bringing to you guys that might be things we haven't talked about before, like minimum lot size and, things that in the past we get really scared about. And so from a staff perspective, my goal is now to structure these aims. So there is research, there is reason why I'm bringing it. Here is what I'm hearing, here is what I'm seeing. Here is the person who is constantly having those conversations with the builders, but also keeping in mind that historical value, what Nederland is, our character. And so as those conversations start happening and as you're seeing more like aims come out like this, just if you're not seeing something you need, like Jim's really good about being, I need to see a physical number, like any of that, so we can start structuring that conversation. So if that turns into 2 meetings versus 4, not that I'm trying to speed anything up, but that I can provide you more data, I would love to continue having that like working conversation with everyone. Because I realize sometimes I bring stuff where I'm like, I think this could, and then you guys will bring a great point of like, well, here's the things that it could affect.
Or sometimes even the items seem to conflict one another,
Correct,
like preserving the historical charm,
but
but providing pre-designed
yeah,
plans that are approved.
Yes.
I mean, so how do we reconcile that, and at least helping the public understand how that doesn't mean we're gonna have 10,000 of these
Yes.
pre-designed lookalikes appear, so what does that really look like in terms of numbers or?
yes. And that was a really, really great thing to bring up, because as staff, we're just thinking, oh, it saves you money. And sometimes that doesn't always like click until our board brings that up. just because you're digging deep into like, what are our options? I'm gonna shoot for the world because it's area.
There are towns like Victor that do that and they create. Oh, they have models that are like basically Queen Anne shotgun style houses because it's appropriate for them.
Mhm.
But there is
doesn't-
some possibility to like design so within that framework. So, but that's really the question in the process that would need to happen. But there is some
It's
cool
like
work
the
happening in
awning
that
can be
space.
on the left side versus
Mhm.
the right,
Yeah.
but it isn't.
Or you can have like
Yeah.
a pitched roof or a false western front or like a, there's a lot
I
of.
know in
different-
the
Gives the
East Coast, they have
Yeah.
it specific to like their areas, like Atlanta is Victorian or whatever, like. There's different areas where they create plans, but they create plans that will fit the design of their like actual town. So that's like a very great move.
But you guys also our goal is to be agnostic in what we're trying to do is bring good policy creation projects
Yes.
to you. And in this capacity, what you're really doing is acting as an advisory board to the Board of Trustees, which is why it's really important to have what should happen is the board should be asking you questions and then you should be answering those questions. And I think that's why this work plan is important because we're saying, hey, there's not a specific question here, but these are things that we think should happen, but the board can direct you to do that in that work session essentially, which is really great. But I think that framework is really important because what we're trying to do is center this in, they are and you are all listening to the community and thinking about these things. But you don't have to agree with everything we bring because what we're
Okay.
trying to do is bring policies that align in general to what we have heard.
Yeah.
And there's a million choices. That's one of the reasons why local control is important. But like, we just need to be able to bring them to you and like have, a process. The more we have a process about how the policy process works and what we framed it with, and as an example in Eldora, as we said, wouldn't it be cool if we did this thing? Here's how we might do this thing. And then we go do that thing. And I think like processes like that, where we're all kind of aligned to like where we are in that circle of policy is helpful no matter what. So I think maybe, and we've talked about like bringing discussion items to you about how we develop policy within our context. It's not like an ivory tower thing. Because there's definitely ivory tower ways to do this, but we don't need that. I think what we need to do is really just keep working deliberately on how we get to decision points and not too fast, but just keep things rolling,
The ivory towers are collapsing.
Yeah,
so we
right.
might as well not
Yeah.
affix our anchor to that model.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I've been liking to say there is no spoon lately, like we can use a fork if we want to.
Yeah.
Do you have something you're gonna add, Steve?
I was just gonna make a general comment that a lot of these items in here, and at the risk of getting on my soapbox like John is, a lot of them fall under chapter 16.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I really would
That
encourage
is a
the
priority.
planning
Yeah.
commission to really keep that priority
yes,
pretty high. Because it's gonna clean up a lot of stuff. It'll help solve a lot of these issues here without having to reinvent the wheel. So that
Yeah,
Steve, did you have any big
general comment.
chapter 16 priorities that we didn't really get to that were things that you would want to consider as we move forward?
We created a list a couple of years ago
Yeah, we
that I'd
did.
have to go back and look.
Oh.
Maybe, yeah, I'll see if I can find
it might
it.
have been before my time. If you could find it, I'll look on the server. That would be huge.
Yeah, we had a list of.
We had a list of, and I don't know if it came out of a previous comprehensive plan or not, but, we sat down and made a list of those.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
So maybe Linda, if you could.
I'll go
look.
through, if not, it should be on the minutes, I would think, or something.
it should be, yeah.
I don't know. I think Cynthia's minutes were pretty dialed in, so.
So based on questions that you're asking us about the, work plan, my suggestion would be that we don't need to have a work session to figure out our priorities, that we pretty well talked that through tonight.
Okay.
And that I would love to be the representative to go and present them to the EOT with anybody else who wants to come along to add in some flavor. I don't ever want to ask you guys to come to an extra meeting you don't need to come to. Sometimes there are, just like the comp plan. Everything I feel like we're working on here is grounded in all the work we did for the comprehensive plan, which all came from, based on previous comprehensive and goals. But, everything we're doing is based on feedback, the process where we did the open houses, we did the online surveys,
Yep.
people came to the meetings, we did work sessions. So this is now what we're going forward with, is not the time to say, is this really what we want to do? Well, we did that part. Got the feedback from the community. We got the 367, feedback, nodes and all those things, from that. And so now what we're trying to do is then put these things into action. And every time we put something in action, there's a public process. People are gonna get the opportunity to come and give feedback. It's sad that most people don't wanna come, but when later, this is all so that we can then point back to when somebody then says, what the hell are you doing trying to raise the height and we're gonna have a building that's 45 feet? You're crazy. Well, I didn't agree to that. Well, you didn't come to the process. We did this for 18 months and we did all this and we can look back and told you, we had these work sessions and we had people from the community were invited and came in and gave their feedback, and so that's the whole thing is all we can do is do the process. Seek out the feedback from the people and then move forward. And then if there's a huge pushback from the community, then we readjust them, right?
And I also encourage people to come to the board meetings because you get a preview of what we're going to get. And
We
it's
saw Linda
very
last week.
helpful. It's very helpful on a lot of items that we're going to be presented with.
Britt's
Yeah.
built pretty nifty new website. It's pretty cool. It's still working. We're working
Still
on building it
working.
out, but one thing it has is projects integrated into it. So you can have these like project blocks where you can go in and talk about it. And that's something like, as we move forward, if we get these projects where they're ready for that, we can have like a click the button, learn about the project thing, which helps too.
Is there anybody else who feels strongly that we should have a work session to come up with our priorities or that we cover them adequately tonight and we can just move forward with presenting that plan to the BOT? If you have some other concerns, raise them now, if you'd like to go with a different course of action.
I think it's appropriate.
All right, having heard none, muted.
Tom's
Tom's
muted.
muted.
I'm comfortable with what we just laid out. I don't think there's a need for a work session. Obviously, a lot of thought's gone into this. I'm comfortable with the summary.
Great. Okay,
And I'll
Yeah.
join you in presenting and going to, if I'm back by then, by going to the trustees.
great. You can have two of us that take fire.
So are you comfortable with me presenting kind of how I did here, but saying like our big things we want to start on right now are definitely that affordability piece. And kind of defining that as this wraps up to pretty much all the long-term, short-term, et cetera.
Well, I think that the affordability piece or was what gonna be a priority.
Yeah.
The housing Prop 123,
Yeah.
that's ongoing.
Yeah,
The fast track.
chapter 16, yeah,
And chapter 16, I'm gonna tell you that I'm gonna continue to say, until we can have some other outside expert help on
Yeah.
that. If you then are saying, okay, we wanna look at one specific aspect of
Yeah.
it that we need to really address. Great, let's have a work session on that, but I don't wanna have 8 work sessions. And we would wanna ask, I'm gonna tell you, I'm disappointed by the amount of work that Linda and I did on the parking plan, and I went and presented, I'm not kidding, you, 6 times
Yes.
to BOT, presented actions and concrete things that we can do. Not one thing has happened as a result of that work. So when I ask people to do outside get together, I mean, we had, I don't know, 12, 15 meetings
Yeah,
with Cynthia.
Animals.
Separate meetings, you guys were doing
fair.
this?
yeah,
To
we
be fair,
had,
that was a totally different staff and a totally different.
It
board.
was, but I'm just saying that when, to ask us to then have work sessions and put a bunch of work together and then it doesn't get acted on for years.
it's frustrating.
yeah,
Then I'm, at this point, I'm not willing to say, let's have a bunch of work sessions, unless the BOT says, yeah, this is something that we're prioritizing. Yes, we want to work on this and yes, we're directing you. I want you
Yeah.
to
And
deal
then they
with.
just
I
disappear.
think in my thought process on chapter 16 would be staff keeps looking for grants. But if we are identifying something within this work structure we have now, where we're coming across like maybe the same section, it might be good for staff and PC at that point to say, okay, section 16-82 is
And we
come up
discussed it.
6 times. Let's talk about maybe an amendment here.
Yeah.
Is that the end all be all? No, but we don't know when a unicorn grant like this is coming. And so maybe we approach it that way where if it's a consistent, and we get that direction from the board, hey, we're noticing this. Do you want us to continue to wait for a grant? Do you want us to look at the section? Maybe it starts like that. I don't know, just a thought.
Well, and I agree, as staff, if you guys are saying, hey, this is an issue
Yeah.
that we need to address, I'm not saying I'm not willing to.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the
The whole
comprehensive
chapter,
entire.
oh, yeah. No, I agree with you
I
there.
think-
That's a lot of work.
I think we just also need to be taking baby steps as much as possible.
Yeah.
Like, I think we got accomplished a lot last year, but probably also less than we all thought we would in a year. And I think that Netherland years just go really fast. So I think like maybe to your point, maybe we just really focus on
Concrete.
low hanging
Yeah.
fruit and get the stuff we
Yeah.
can take care of. And
Okay,
Which is really
Yeah.
those foundational points, that Prop 123, that AMI, that industrial zoning that's
Oh,
up in
yes,
the air.
yes,
Yeah,
those three for sure.
yeah, that was my thought on like, those are ones that I think are small enough to bite off. But like, we need that foundation before we can accomplish half of these bullet
And
points.
then if you were gonna put chapter 16 in there, I would put something like long-term goal is a comprehensive overview of chapter 16. In the short term, we were prepared to do updates as necessary.
And we
That's a great
discuss
point.
them so often.
Yeah.
That it's legitimate to go in that direction.
So if you were then to come, just like you did with the setback thing, and say, okay, man, this is a problem, it's creating a problem
Mhm.
that is a barrier for something, and if we could prioritize that and work on this over the next 3 months, great, let's do
Okay.
that. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody here that isn't willing to put in the time and energy. I think what it is that I don't want to put it in time and energy that
Or
doesn't go anywhere.
Picking, wow.
Yeah,
Picking
there were
one
several.
section a week and it becomes a thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree with you. Okay,
And
I
at
think
this
that-
point, I've gotta, if
Great.
when I come back and represent parking again, there'll be a whole new, I mean, I don't know if there's
But
even
you
gonna be
still
anybody
have-
there.
You still have all
I
this.
still have the same PowerPoint presentation.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come
You
say
don't
the
even have
exact
to do
same
more
thing.
work.
well, to me also, the
Change
other thing
things.
is, it is that parking presentation did inform the sub-area plan and the parking plan in.
That is fair.
Okay,
So it is.
That is fair.
it was useful.
moving,
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that did work into the sub area plan. We gave them your direct presentation.
Just change the
about that.
dates, that's right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, great. I think I have what I need, so I'm not gonna structure it too differently, but just maybe like the questions to the board in the sense of, and here's where our first thoughts are on these meetings and then looking for that direction. I will send that out so that anyone who wants to come can kind of see what that looks like before it goes out there. So if you want to add notes or talk, I'll get with John to see what meeting we can get that on.
I'm thinking it's likely, like what I'd like to do is a second meeting in February. if we
That's what
can.
I'm thinking.
I can't do Tuesday, but I can definitely do the one after.
Which is fine because I'm likely gonna have like an SRU and a couple other things for you in February, so I think we'll be fine on February's meeting. So that's great. Yeah,
Okay.
this was super helpful. Thank you for, taking the time to work through that for me. I just felt like that was a really good start to like the new year for us.
And I think the catch-all under that, and when I come, I'll say the same thing to them is, and if you have other priorities as
Yes.
a part, please let
Please
us
tell
know
us.
and we'll try to incorporate that as we can. Right?
Yeah,
You
And
know,
I think as they work on their strategic plan too, if stuff comes up that they
Unless it's
want me to bring, yeah, I don't want everyone to look at that
and
again.
I won't even say that. I won't even bring that up as a joke.
Please don't.
One thing we did not
Trauma.
specifically talk about, but we do have a statutory obligation. We do need to look at the 3 mile plan. Like that's an annual
Every
thing.
year, yeah.
So those kinds of things, we're trying to get those on the calendar and just,
Mhm.
it's a pretty, you don't have to like you need to look at it is what you have to do. So,
Review it and
Yeah.
do kind of the exercise we did with the maps last time and
Right.
and
Yeah.
see if that all looks, I think we did the hard work
yeah,
previously, and then we
Yeah.
just want to confirm that that's still
Yeah.
is valid, right?
validated, I think is all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had the.
Yeah,
the
so I will make sure to reshare the PC agenda with everyone, so you all can kind of see, like, this is what is aligning, it has to be updated, but I was kind of waiting for this meeting, and then little stuff like that's gonna pop up. So just if you're like, I'm wondering what, maybe I wanna do extra research.
I have one more thing I want to ask you guys that I'm just putting it early and you guys can take action on it later. I think it'd be super good if we're not doing business in December in general, unless it's necessary. And I realize that's a long time away from here. But I think like in theory, from a planning perspective, if your last meeting is, if you either don't have a Christmas meeting or you like just have a a holiday meeting, we'll say, and then, or like a more informal one, like I think that is a lot. It's not a bad thing to just be kind of like wrapping things up in November. So just putting that in your heads, if that's something you guys want to like kind of plan for earlier,
Yeah,
that helps get that agenda set. and
Well,
people
I will
plan.
tell you that kind of. Leave it
Nothing
to,
bad happened in December this year. We didn't miss a beat, I don't think.
and hasn't that typically been something that has been either moved up earlier or
Yeah,
canceled.
We've combined November and December together.
Yeah.
Which accomplishes what you're saying, and
Yeah.
it was earlier,
in
maybe after
December.
Thanksgiving or
That's
something.
great. I
Yeah.
like that idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think you'll get any argument because one, we all know where our dates fall.
Yeah.
It's right, falls every time right where the holiday is.
Yeah.
And you guys got a lot of stuff to do. Staff want to take time off. We want to take time. off
Early
and go do things.
December as opposed to a Thanksgiving meeting or a,
That's correct.
it sounds
Well-
great.
Actually, that's not a bad idea, like first week.
Amanda, if
Yeah.
possible, get our work done and maybe have an additional work session somewhere in the year if need be, and then just plan on not having a December meeting, unless necessary. And you
Yeah.
leave that as and if we have to, because we got some business we got to wrap up, you know, the comp plan, we couldn't have done that. You know, with the comp plan, we had to keep going forward. I think that would be good. Okay, good. That's good stuff.
We respect your time. I think one of the things I know is this last year was tough for a lot of people. And I think you guys had a lot going on, the board had a lot going on, staff had a lot going on. You know, we navigated the year changed. So like there's major challenges throughout the entire year. Like nobody thought we would be dealing with a major fire. Nobody thought we were going to be doing any of the stuff we were doing last year. And it was a lot. And I think one of the things for me that I'm trying to tell people, and I'm saying this in the most positive way possible, is that Nederland doesn't need us to be heroes. It needs us to build systems, and it needs us to build systems that support you so that you guys have the capability to work within this structure, and it needs to support staff and also the board of trustees. You know, there's a lot of people that show up for Nederland every day, and I just want to protect our space. And you know, you told me that, Jim, and I listen. It's not always possible in my role, but you can't go 100% all the time. And I don't want to say that we shouldn't go 100%, but I do want to say, like, let's keep the ball rolling and make sure that nobody feels like this is becoming a
Burnout
burden.
versus
Yeah.
the sustainability.
Yeah.
thing. And I appreciate the up of the time that this group allowed us to meet an hour earlier, because I mean, just looking at the clock, I mean,
Yeah.
I started at 7 AM today, went
Yeah.
to a historic, finished work at 4, had the meeting at 5, like haven't eaten yet, and really
Yes.
appreciate
You're
it.
hanging-
Elizabeth, you should try it from 8 in the morning. It works great.
Right?
Eat it in the morning.
Cause
Yeah.
he's elsewhere.
Oh, goodness.
One thought on what Elizabeth brought up. Up the 26th is Thanksgiving this year. December 2nd might be the good time for the November, December meeting.
Great.
Okay,
We can look at that as we get a little closer, I think, too, and we'll have a better idea, let's say by September,
that's what I was
What's coming
thinking.
up?
what we
Yeah.
have to get done still.
My thoughts were, I was gonna look ahead like that, but wait until we get
Yeah.
right before that fall time period, so I know where
Mhm.
we're at. with this New board and
Yeah.
everything.
Here's the only other thing I would ask you to put in when we go to present this work plan is maybe throw together like a checklist of 6 or 8 things that are regular business for us.
Okay.
So that they don't think, oh, this is all we're
This is
doing all
all we're
year,
doing. I
right?
see
Hey,
what you mean.
we're also doing land use stuff, SRUs, variance, whatever, the things are gonna come up.
Applications.
Right, and then we'll say to them, and of course, when those applications come up, sometimes this other stuff
push.
has to get bumped because there's timelines on those applications.
That's a very valid, what great way to think at
Ongoing
capacity.
business.
Right,
Yes.
regular business, regular ongoing business, I like it. Okay,
Yeah,
The board has always accused us of dragging stuff out. And a lot of times that's because other priorities have come up.
yes.
And I don't think.
or the in-depth level of the discussion,
I don't think we've ever, well, at least not since I've been here, I don't think we've ever brought to them, like, hey, these are the other things that we do, and typically there are, I mean, for the most part, consistently, we do usually have 1 to 2 that come up, like, within the couple months of each other, where they're big ones,
We could have,
so,
there are looming a couple of potentially big applications that could take.
100%.
That could happen this year.
Yep.
So we'll see what happens.
so that's a good thing to just also mention to me. The qualifier is, a big SRU may end up taking 2 months worth of plan commission time if it's,
And
a large
staff,
project.
staff time on the back end too, like could be
Yeah.
high, so.
Yeah.
You're right, we definitely need to. make
and
sure we do
maybe
that.
too, that's something that I continue to address, like in my staff report to them as well, is I'll have like a section for planning commission and like, hey, we've halted work on this because we have these.
I'm not trying to make you do it anymore.
No, I think, but I think that speaks to the planning commission as part of my job. So I think that is just a good thing to continue to keep them outlined, because these reports are realistically for the Board of Trustees
And
and you guys.
things come back to us as well.
Yeah.
So we're rehashing.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, no, so I think that's, I've been looking at how to read.
Software, I don't know if that would help or hurt you, but we track like all the, like every action item agenda, and then there's the soft Trello, you know, it's
Oh, yeah.
the management system, and then it'll tell us all the things that we completed. It tells us, so it generates like reports for
Yeah.
accomplishments. It has ongoing you can archive
I need
things that are.
I could send it to John.
I've actually thought about it. I would love to have something like that. We have like a homebrew system right now and
Yeah.
it's not the most effective.
No.
But
It's something that we.
Yeah.
And then you kind of forget, like when I write these reports, I'm like, I don't know, I've done so much, I forgot.
Sure.
Like,
That's the key, right?
I don't want to
there.
give you every little detail. Hey, I spent 6 hours talking with
Right,
residents this week on building
but
homes.
it won't be acknowledged if it's not being tracked.
Yeah, that's a good
It is
point.
Your time. So
I always go to Chris Kelly at the Mountaineer to find out what happened.
Oh, that's right.
thank you, Chris, for joining us and being part of this community engagement.
Or is that, we good on that?
That's the conclusion of that one, yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to the, and knowing that Elizabeth is hungry, let's have, the
I'm
staff.
very short, yeah, I'm not, so really a lot that you're gonna see from town staff here is we didn't have a ton of snow this month, so it has been a month of maintenance on machines, of kind of doing some of that road work that we're able to do because we're not plowing. There's been a hydrant that has been added here, with the assistance of a contractor and our in-house utilities team. So there's been a lot of maintenance for our buildings, things like that, from parks, streets, and utilities. So really, we've used this month, instead of twiddling our thumbs, we've used it as like, let's get our stuff together. This big storm can always happen.
Promise you,
Um,
no one thinks that you're twiddling.
Hey, I'm just making sure. We also, not all of us, but we're trying to use it as a time to take maybe some PTO here and there. I wish we could get John to do it, but we're not there yet. So, just because our end for our PTO rollover happens here soon, a lot of us are very much over, because this is a big year for us. And I think we've used it as an opportunity to figure out how we can create that capacity this year, but there was a lot of work done last year and just not the
Well,
opportunity.
I promise you, the Eldora purchase will eventually
It
not be
will.
on your plate.
Yeah.
It'll either happen or it won't happen.
You guys,
For-
we should put that as an item. John goes on vacation.
Yeah.
That's one of
He's
our
good. He should probably
priorities.
have a week minimum.
yeah, it's been a little,
We
that's been
should
a
try.
challenge this year, but
He goes to
We've been-
Eldora for vacation.
it'd be- we've
Yeah.
been going skiing.
Yeah.
It's okay. We're doing okay for the moment, but could always do better.
Yeah, another thing is the West Wing. That's been a big project. That is kind of all staff. My department, the fire marshal, Dawn, John, we've all really been working on this West Wing. It's a project. We're getting it up to compliance, essentially so that we are able to move forward with whatever needs to be done over here. So it's essentially anything combustible has to get out of those rooms. And so we're working with renters, anyone who's keeping storage there. We are working with them in order to get that moving. We are having meetings weekly with Dawn and the fire marshal to really keep us within that timeline, and just tackling that. So that's kind of like another project that is involving all of us in a sense. So
Question on that, does the outside of it, where there's debris and stuff left, is that part of the consideration?
oh yeah, it's going.
On cleaning stuff? 'Cause
Boxes.
I mean, that's a fire.
Yep, the wooden planter boxes. So essentially there's, if anyone isn't interested, it's called like S1. So there's certain combustible items that are listed. So like those wooden planter boxes have to move. It's not that they can't be there, but something else would need to come about. And so really what triggers allowing items like that would be when you got a sprinkler system. But if you're just doing an alarm, anything cardboard, plastic, all of that has to go. It has to be like metal shelving and things along that line. And so we're kind of working with those members on what that looks like if they want to continue to store here and what's appropriate with the fire department. So we had a meeting to set those like clear expectations so we could get that language out to those members and make sure everyone's on the same page so there's not confusion.
Then the goal is we want to get, there's kind of probably 2 or 3 phases here. So phase 1 would be we're in that safe S2 land for alarms, because it's good to have that building alarmed no matter what. I think the demo of that building is probably a $3 million project or more potentially. We have to
Just the demo?
potentially.
Demo's really expensive,
I
very
think
expensive.
The other thing is we know that the building is generally structurally sound. It's also big, and I think that we have a need for space here. I know there's some concerns about health things over there, and I think if we were to use a space where it's more of a public facing space, it would go through a renovation project. We would do all the things appropriate to make sure it's a healthy, safe space.
Yeah.
And I've been working with DOLA to potentially even get a grant to do that work. The structure of the building, I mean, it's a brick building. It's fairly solidly built. It just needs to be, like Britt said, it needs to be brought to code. And then we need to make sure that if we decide that we want to inhabit that space, that we do the right things for that. But one benefit of that would be we could put the sheriff there.
Mhm.
We are obligated to provide a sheriff substation. And there's nowhere else really that we could do so. So, they could go where they used to be. I don't know if you all remember where they used to be. It used to be, they had a couple rooms at the end. And there's some benefits to that for our community too. I think it's a little bit less visible than the other space. So it's easier for somebody if they have to come do a report where they have a little bit more confidentiality and different things like that. So that's one of the things we're thinking about. But for phase 1 is clean the space out. Phase 2 is figure out an alarm system, which would be good. And then phase 3 would be, if we decide that we want to use the space in a more extensive way, then we would need to go ahead and start that planning work, which would require us to get like an architect and do all those things that would need to happen for that. But that would be later. I think our number 1 goal is safe space that is meeting the needs of the fire department. And so I think I'd say we're doing fairly good on the project. It's a big project.
I think so, yeah.
We have a dumpster. One of the challenges is there are many, many community treasures over there, some of which I think the community may have forgotten about. And so one thing that's really good is we have Don here, and Don knows what everything is. And so that's really helpful because then it lets us say like, oh, this is from blah, 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 whatever. So we don't inadvertently throw away something that matters. And that's what we've been really, the first part I think takes a little bit longer because we want to make sure that we do that part right. And then, but all of our partners, like the library has space there, the Tungsten Toffee has space there, Teens Inc. has space there. I think the food pantry has space there. The seniors has space there. The theater has space there. There's a lot of different community orgs that have just general storage in there. So it's a good opportunity. And I think what we'll do is this is something we need to start thinking about as a town. Facilities in Nederland have not always historically gotten the attention that they deserve from a maintenance perspective. And I think it's just because of the realities of our town. But this is an opportunity to start working on that and like just being really deliberate. So that's what we'll do. We're gonna it's a good spring cleaning project. It'll be good.
There will be a donation day. I
Yeah.
will be posting it, so come grab goodies
Hopefully
if you want.
the last bee house is next.
Yeah.
It's on the list.
It is. Yep. So other thing I just kind of wanted to highlight, the EV charger again, we had some turnover, but we've gotten the reboot up, like everything's good to go. We're just working, so I passed this project on to Cass because I don't have capacity. So she's working on finding a representative so we can actually charge it. We have someone from SAP who has an EV car that's gonna come up and we just want to make sure that it works. Because I did have an issue yesterday where someone needed a level 3 and I was like, okay, well, we're gonna have to tow you somewhere else because we had town staff push them in.
Oh,
Yeah, so we're still working on that, but I've passed that along because I just don't have the capacity to call and text and email and all of that. And so I know that will get done in a much quicker manner just because it was not top of my priority list. The website.
Don't forget I would put on the list, don't forget the Chatamo users. All the Nissan Leafs need a different plug. And we have
Okay.
quite a few of them in town.
That's good to know. I will make sure. The other thing is, again, the website is up. I was having some challenges with fixing the calendar so I could get our meetings on there because our calendar structure has changed. And then the food pantry, so I've been making updates there, but as always, We do get feedback sometimes where someone's like, oh, I can't really find this. If you're finding that people are saying that, or you find it as you're kind of going through it, feel free to, again, keep emailing me. It's been super helpful. I've had a lot of community members now that they're interested in different meetings of like, how can I better find this? Or how do I better find an application? And so kind of just working on streamlining it. So everything will mainly be on that website, and Civic Web will only be used for like these agenda packets until we can put it all into one, because there is an option to do that, but it costs money. As for code enforcement has picked up. We are moving to the point of court summons with some of these cases. I just always like to point it out because I think that's something people forget about, that it does go on in the background. And some people are like, why isn't this happening? There is a process. And so I'm working with Safe Built on creating more like flyers and stuff, but kind of like, this is what it looks like if you get a violation for someone who complains and someone who's the person getting complained on. So just working on like how to better engage the community on that, because otherwise it's me explaining it over and over and then figuring out how does that look on the website? How can we better engage a person who doesn't want to necessarily reach out to me because they're embarrassed or whatever. Our building permits are kind of, I mean, we still get building permits all the time, but we do see a drop down typically when we have a lot of these snowstorms, more indoor projects, a lot of furnaces. And then Cass and I are really working on a lot of grants. As you've seen, we're bringing them to you. I didn't get the official Town of Netherlands, but I did get the official, we got approved for her for another year through their press release, which is huge. So we were one of the awarding communities from that.
The AHC grant too,
Yep,
affordable housing tax.
there we go. John worked harder on that one. I don't know.
We got $100,000 to study the Barker site for housing,
Yes.
for a
with
housing project in
Boulder.
coordination with BCHA. So that's gonna let us really advance that project.
Yeah, and
Fantastic.
create that engagement. So thank John for that one, because I've been working on other ones. And then I got like an early update, but hopefully to come. There was a grant that I went for like educational like certifications, things that we don't as staff always get the money for in my department. So it would cover like John, myself, Cass, to go on conferences, to go for permit technician certification, to do all those things that we don't have the budget for. So when that officially comes out, it'll be official, but I did hear through the grapevine that we did get that, which is huge. That's money we don't
Is that
have.
for all the staff or just for specific?
It specifically is for building and land use and energy. And so I was able to get stuff that John could go for, myself and Cass. A lot of the other departments don't really go for any of the conference or certifications we do. But that is something that I have given up as staff to let the individual I supervise. Like all of that funding went to her this year, and I was not able to do that if I didn't have a scholarship or last year.
I want to really promote Britt being able to.
Yeah, I want to be more knowledgeable. I'm ready for
Yeah.
more school. I'm crazy, obviously. But yeah, so we're continuing to work on that. And then it's going to be something informational I send, but we do have this, we are working with PI, which is XL Energy's Partners in Energy Group, that we had a workshop yesterday. I don't know if anyone attended from here, or it was 2 days ago. I don't remember. But I'll probably start just like sending updates on that if anyone is interested. It's really working on kind of like the goals and identifying focus areas and getting to, I don't know, it's energy stuff that Cass can explain to you. I'm not as involved. But other than that, I think those were the main things that I kind of wanted just to outline in this.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, I did want to say, I think we are finally from the DDA, because I'm working with the DDA because they're going with our website as well. So Kate's working on that. But the wayfinding, it sounds like we got the last solidified location. And so signs will be ordered, and realistically signs could be here in about 2 weeks. But we will make sure to work with parks staff, myself, and make sure that those are going up accordingly and talking to business owners. So they're not like totally like, what the heck? So those will be going up here shortly, which I'm very excited about, at least. So get some signage up, and I don't know if you've seen the ugly concrete blocks, but those are what those are for. So yeah, so if you're seeing
Everyone
those around town,
that out.
that is why. that is why. Those are the foundations to get that all going.
We've also been working on Caribou Village Fire.
Oh,
demolition site.
yes.
It's a very complicated project and there's no getting around it. But the town is essentially, Brit has greenlit all the permits. So I think there's a couple that just dotting the i's, crossing the t's to make sure they've got all that stuff to us, which I anticipate will happen very soon. I think everything's just getting taken care of.
Yep.
They've been
Good
working
coverage,